Tick-tock, time to rock. That's how it goes.
Oh, we're live?
Okay. Yeah. That's how it goes when we're in the studio. AP on the shofar. What is that? Seriously? During Islamophobia Awareness Month?
What?
You're showing that thing during Islamophobia Awareness Month?
Well, people need to be aware of Islamophobia and the fact that Islamophobia gives Islam big L's like this. This is a big L. See?
Oh, okay. That's actually,
L.
that's a J, dude. Turn it around.
Sorry. Here.
There you go.
Now it's
There you go. Smart Turkish dude still learning his ABCs.
Well. As an immigrant, I think I'm doing a pretty good job here.
AP still got one of those little writing pads with the dotted lines on them that they give us in kindergarten, practicing his J's and his L's, his J's and his L's.
Yeah, it's right here.
Wowzers! Wow! Hey, AP.
What?
How you doing?
All right, man. How you doing?
So yesterday, I don't remember when.
All my troubles seem too far away. Sorry, continue.
Now I'm hearing the song in my head. All my troubles seem so far away. No, hey. Now hey, you should make it a shofar song, and it could be "All my troubles are so far away."
Oh yeah, that's good. All my troubles are so far away. That's good. That's good.
That'll be dope. Hey, what's this? Didn't we cover something about this? I don't remember what this is about, but I remember this name. What is this? You should touch on how Osman Gold's apology turned into Osman Gold causing the ad meltdown due to Hassan over on Twitch. It is kind of related to subject matter. I don't remember. I remember we covered something. What was that? What is this even talking about? We covered something with Osman Gold.
Was that guy with that mildly long hair streamer on Twitch?
The one who started talking trash about Islam?
No, who said that those who want genocide, I don't care if they get genocided and so on.
Yeah.
And then he issued an apology, and in the apology he was like, "I will now be a better person and clean my room and clean my house." And but it kind of derailed. Something happened. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, so it caused an ad meltdown? Things like that tend to happen.
His own company that he founded kicked him out, and then ads were like, "We don't want to work with you anymore." So,
those kinds of things happen. You remember the old adpocalypse several years ago on YouTube where someone started posting on Twitter or something like that. Look, the Coca-Cola ads running on this white supremacist account. And this Coca-Cola is funding this person. And the reason it hadn't been flagged is because it had like 41 views or something like that. No one had seen it. And that's why it was still running. That's why it hadn't been flagged. But then they cracked down, and all the companies say we can't allow this. We can't allow this. And they shut down like $15 billion worth of ads from YouTube. And then YouTube had to crack down on hate speech everywhere, even though it had nothing to do with anything. And their systems in place are good for anything that's actually getting any traction, which that video wasn't. And if I recall correctly, that dude was making literally nothing because the only reason his video was monetized was because he played a clip of a monetized video in his video, and that other video he played a clip of to attack it was actually getting the revenue. Anyway, you have people flip out over something, complain, and then companies have to modify the rules, and then a bunch of stuff happens. Fun stuff. All right. So I'm going to put a poll out here. Start a little poll. Because this debate, I'm guessing you didn't see this debate?
No.
Nor have I. I just know that it's Mike Jones, who I know, and the other guy whom I don't know. But the fact that I don't know him means he's completely insignificant. He has not appeared on my radar as someone worthy of paying attention to. I don't even know why we're going to listen to him, except to see him crushed and humiliated.
I just saw that it's a video where a bunch of weirdos talk about Christianity and atheism. Oh wait, did you say Michael Jones?
Mike Jones.
Oh, sorry. One cool guy was talking to some weirdo about Christianity and atheism. I thought, you know, that's what I thought.
Which is better for humanity, Christianity or atheism?
Christianity would be the answer to that
Hang on.
question.
Based Christianity,
Based. Oh yeah, I forgot to
donkey
share that on my thingy.
brained atheism.
Donkey brain.
Which is better for humanity, Christianity or atheism? Based Christianity, donkey brained atheism. Okay, we're starting to pull. Hey, I'm actually not sure about the topic because on IP's channel it said which is better for humanity, Christianity or secular atheism. So I'm wondering if he's talking about secular humanism or something like that. In other words, secular humanism is a particular view. Like atheism is just this kind of vague general. It's a denial of a position rather than an affirmative position. Where secular humanism is actually a position on ethics. So it said secular atheism in the title. I don't know if the topic is actually secular humanism or atheism, or if they actually called it secular atheism. I don't know. I guess we will find out as we start watching. What?
Secular atheism.
Yeah, I don't know what secular atheism is, as opposed to what?
Religious atheism.
Religious. Hey, people, they should start calling themselves secular atheists as opposed to the new atheists and start saying, because the new atheists are basically a religion. We're the secular atheists.
This is the non-theistic atheism. This is the theocratic atheism and secular atheism. That's fine.
Dr. Andani didn't mention Quran 6:115 during debate. I don't know why he would. Sam could have. But 6:115, you have to read it in context of 114, ladies and gentlemen, but that's the verse that says that no one can change Allah's words. That's one of the verses that says no one can change Allah's words.
Except me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because almost every Muslim you ever run into believes that Allah's words have been repeatedly changed. And because any one of us can take a book right now and change it. If we can take the Quran right now and make changes to it. So it's kind of a weird claim. Let's see. What?
Someone is going to take that seriously, man. Farid is going to say, and look what they said here.
Look at what they're saying. Anybody.
They think if they change a letter in their own Quran copy, that means they have changed the entire Quran. Little do they know, many people have it memorized.
Oh, hang on. We got the response from Inspiring Philosophy here. Hey, IP, I know you're usually busy and stuff, and you've been doing like 1,000 debates, but you don't even have to post in the chat. If you ever want to show up, just let me know, and you can jump right in here. The debate was Christianity versus secularism. Okay, I'll change that later. I'm not sure why the host wrote secular atheism in the title instead. Secularism. Okay, I'll fix that later. Now we know. Now we know what it is. And when we see IP completely humiliated, we'll know that he lost to secularism. AP, have you seen Metatron's demolition of the empanada foo you mentioned in a past stream? God bless y'all and your families. Love y'all, no Diddy.
What is a Metatron? I have no idea who or what Metatron is.
Do you even know what any of this is? I don't know what the Metatron thing is. I don't know what the empanada. I don't know what food.
I know the empanada guy. There's this guy called Empanada. He has a YouTube channel, and he's just basically obsessively going after different people who have different opinions. He recently started going after me for some weird reason and started emailing me and harassing me and saying, "Oh, but debate me? Are you scared?" And I just sent to him a message and said, "Get in touch with Modern Day Debate." And he was like, "Oh, a real adult can speak for himself." So I just didn't respond anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a complete weirdo. And
so you've been humiliated. You've been crushed and humiliated.
Been destroyed. I think he was also banned from Twitter. He's a person who got banned from Twitter after Elon Musk took over.
How does that even happen? You can literally sit there calling for the extermination of Jews all day long. No one does anything to you. And this guy got banned?
No, he actually, in his case, I don't know what he did. He outright celebrated killing of civilians and something like that, and then he was banned.
Let's see. Does Dr. Andani believe Jews regard Ezra as the son of God? I do not know what he believes. That'd be a good question for a Q&A when he's in a debate. Any news on why Hamas whipping feet of guys? The only things I heard as I was paying attention to the chat yesterday was people, or in the comments, I forget where, but people who are familiar with the same thing in Iran. So yes, that's something you do to torture someone without causing any permanent damage, even though it's extremely painful. And then if they keep you a while, it's hard to prove that they did anything wrong. They go, what? Prove it. You prove that we tortured you. Prove it. You see? That or it's some weird fetish thing. I'm a bit confused about AP's appearance. Oh, there's lots to be confused about with AP.
Why would you be confused about my appearance?
Yeah. This is bling. Everyone's got their... What that guy called it the other day? Drip?
Yeah.
Guy called it? Is that a real thing? They call it drip?
That's new language.
That's
drip,
your fresh gear.
Born.
When I was young, we called it our fresh gear.
It's called
now we call it drip.
Drip, 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 drip,
drip, drip, drip, drop, keep dripping. Best argument against naturalism to humiliate naturalists. I would say the evolutionary argument against naturalism. You could check that in one of my recent videos.
Dakota Duck, when I said that he got banned for celebrating killing civilians, I didn't mean Metatron. I don't know who Metatron is. I meant Bad Empanada.
Oh, Bad Empanada. I've seen that name before. I wasn't sure about Empanada. So far, there are 322 votes in. Which is better for humanity, Christianity, or atheism-based Christianity? 88%. Donkey-brained atheism? 12%. The people have spoken. Notice, when it comes to Christianity versus atheism, the victory is way more landslide than any political election that you see. The political elections are very, very close. The Christianity versus atheism is not so close.
But the people...
All right, you ready to jump into this video?
Yes.
I want to see IP. IP's pretty... IP goes around running his mouth. I'm so smart. I'm so smart. Look at my videos. I've read 5,700 sources that you haven't read. And now we'll watch him be humiliated. Now with the top hat is better. Or with the just hat. I think he's saying that with the hat.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, man, you need to get one of those big fur hats that they wear. And where's that? Places in Russia?
No, they actually... So Hasidic Jews wear all black, wear kind of a suit, and wear regular black hats. But on Sabbath and other special days, they wear different hats, like bigger ones with the.
I remember it was something in Russia where to identify them as Jews, they had to wear whatever fur that's made out of.
Yeah,
they had to wear that to distinguish themselves. So they started wearing these awesome hats out of it, like they rolled with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they adopted that. Hasidic Jews just adopted that whole thing as like as regular thing to have a community. You know?
Nice.
It's kind of funny.
All right, so we ready to watch IP get completely crushed and humiliated by some atheist that we've never heard of before? Have I heard of that? I've heard it. Phil Zuckerman, I think they said. That sounds familiar, but I don't know if it just sounds like another name, like Zuckerberg or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Zuckerman.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I guess I was going to try and give an introduction to the topic, but they might give an introduction to the topic for us. So let's just see what we got here. Let's see what we got and how based this is. And maybe we change our minds.
Hello and welcome to the debate, Christianity or secularism, which is better for humanity? To debate this topic, I'm joined by Phil Zuckerman and Michael Jones. Phil is a professor of sociology and secular studies,
sociology
and he's
professor.
also the author of several books, including Society Without God, Living the Secular Life, and What It Means to Be Moral.
Now that's interesting. So this isn't some random internet dude. This is a professor of sociology who apparently has dedicated his life to studying. Why are you stuttering? Studying the impact of various views. And so sociology, this might get interesting. Nice. I think just based on this dude's credentials, I think IP has finally met his match. And this guy probably won't be like Daniel Hakikachu going, of course, we can bang a 4-year-old.
Well, the thing is,
what's up?
The thing is that after watching Dr. Khalil Andani, I'm aware that that academia is not necessarily a big, lots of weird people that present very, very weak and idiotic positions can brag about PhD and all that. So unfortunately, I don't know, like people like Dr. Khalil Landani kind of tarnish the reputation of scholars, of doctors. So I'm not sure what to think now if somebody has credentials like this.
Yeah, this is kind of rough. It is kind of rough that you can have people with all sorts of credentials. I mean, it was just pointed out that like Daniel Hakikachu, Harvard grad, and he's bragging about his degrees and stuff. And at the end of the day, what's he doing? He's using it to defend sex with 4-year-olds. Super impressive, super impressive. And then what do we see at all these universities daily now? We have to destroy the Jews. That's what you learn. That's what you learn at college nowadays. Okay, I changed my mind. This guy being a professor of sociology and having written multiple books on why secularism is so much better than religion, I take it back. We're gonna have to actually look at his arguments because I'm not just gonna take his word for everything.
Did you see what Donald Trump said about college campuses and anti-Semitism?
No. Which one?
And we're going to destroy anti-Semitism on college campuses, and all those who don't comply, they will be defunded.
I'm gonna take look. I'm a problem solver. I'm gonna take all the people who are eating the dogs, who are eating the cats, and I'm gonna say no, don't eat the dogs, don't eat the cats, eat those protesters. That's gonna solve the problems. The people are gonna eat the protest. The people who eat the dogs are gonna eat the protesters. Then we're gonna get rid of the people who are eating the dogs. Problem solved. All of them all at once. This is my big brain. Powerful. Man, did you see? Man, I saw some clips on Twitter of the MMA, the UFC matches last night. And John Jones won everything and went and handed his belt to Donald Trump. Man, get wild out there. All right, but right now we got a sociology professor
of secularism. Michael, on the other hand, is a Christian apologetic who has a master in philosophy from the University of Arizona.
Hold on.
Moreover, he also...
Hold up. Did he flash the other guy's book at him? Hang on. As in, hey, I've read your book. Hang on. What did he just do there? Where did it go? There we go. I just want to see if IP flashed that dude's book.
He's also the author of several books, including Society Without God,
Society
Living
Without
the
God,
Secular Life, and
Living
What
the
It
Secular
Means
Life.
to Be Moral.
What it means
Phil
to be
will
moral.
be arguing in favor of secularism. Michael, on the other hand, is a Christian apologist.
That's what he did. He held up the dude. You guys have no idea how intimidating that would be in a debate. You've got this guy right here. You've got Mike Jones. Read your books. Starting at the beginning. Do you know how intimidating that is, AP? If you're a social, I'm gonna stump him with my arguments. I know all your arguments. I read all your stuff. And not only did I read all the stuff you said in your books, I went to the Works Cited and I read all those too. That's what this dude does, man. That's what he does. That's what he. See, guys, right here, you're thinking, oh, okay, it's not a really big deal. This is how he crushed Daniel Hakikachu. All the stuff that Daniel Hakikachu had been saying and so on. IP went and read all of that stuff and then used it against him. So anyway, interesting stuff.
This guy's a monster.
He's a
master in philosophy
Glad he's on
from
our side.
the University of Arizona.
He'd be a freaking nightmare.
Moreover, he also runs the YouTube channel Inspiring Philosophy with over 400,000 subscribers.
Hey, I know that channel.
And Michael will be arguing in favor of Christianity. And we will start off with you, Michael, for your opening statement. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to discuss this with Professor Zuckerman.
All right, what should we do? Should we I don't know how long. Should we just watch the whole opening? No, we'll just do like we know. I will try to not interrupt. I will try to interrupt as little as possible for their openings here, so we can actually. What will we do? We'll interrupt when they say
I think this was
something.
already enough, right? Wasn't
Yeah, we got the big picture. We already know the answer. All right, let's just see what happens.
Something I've been looking forward to for a long time, even before the offer was made. So I'm really happy to be here. Although there's a lot we disagree on, I have a lot of respect for Professor Zuckerman. I hope we have a good conversation, and I enjoy reading some of his books, even though, again, there's a lot we disagree on. So, which is better for humanity, secularism or Christianity? I'll go through these slides here. I will argue the data shows the answer is clearly Christianity. However, I first want to point out I'll not be arguing that if we all became atheists, that society would collapse tomorrow, or that we would experience immediate moral decay.
We would.
I will only be arguing that Christianity creates more optimal societies that can endure and generate progress.
That's true.
Again, the debate is about which is better for humanity. Demonstrating that Christianity is better does not mean other types of societies cannot flourish or endure. I would just argue they do so in a less optimal way. Now, by Christian societies, I mean societies that are based on Christian values, and the majority of the population identifies as Christian, regardless of governmental laws. And by secular societies,
By Christian societies, I mean societies that are based on Christian principles.
I mean societies that are based on secular values, and the majority of the people identify as secular atheists. And I want to be clear, I'm not arguing for theocracy or any type of government. This is about the nature of different societies, not governments. We can talk about this later, but experts like Edward Grant, Tom Holland, Alan Ryan note Christianity led to the idea of the separation of church and state. So Christian societies do not necessarily result in some form of theocracy. In fact, I will bring up research that shows Christianity is positively associated with democracy and less authoritarianism. And one more thing, I want to acknowledge Professor Zuckerman is not one to argue religion has no benefits, but he's also argued secularism is a better system for humanity. One reason he's given in interviews is because most religious individuals are good because of obedience, whereas secular people are mainly motivated by compassion and empathy. But this is an oversimplification. Secularists can be motivated by obedience as well, such as obedience to the state, peers, workplace superiors, parents, or other guardians. It is not the case that secularists are necessarily mainly motivated by virtues, and that religious people only have obedience as their main motivation. Second, it should be clear that religious individuals can also be motivated by empathy and compassion. Paul said in Ephesians, "For by grace you have been saved, through faith. This is not your own doing, it is a gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one can boast." In other words, Christians do not have to do good works for fear of punishment or to earn salvation. It is a gift of God, and we are called to do good, simply because it is the right thing to do. We love because Christ first loved us. We don't have to love because Christ will punish us if we don't. Third, if religious morality was only about obedience, we would not have missionary activity. Not all Christians are called to be missionaries or dedicate their lives to charity. One can live an ethical life without becoming a great saint or ever doing charity work. But Christian missionaries have been crucial for building a better world. Numerous studies, which I have on slide 7, show this, and have shown that Christians and their religious motives have helped create this. They've led to things like higher literacy rates, more education, better hygiene habits, medical care, economic progress, freedom, etc., etc. And this was not only accomplished in historical white regions, but in places around the world. None of this was required in order to be obedient to God's law. Christians went out of their ways to do these things because of their empathy and compassion. In fact, from all these studies, it is hard to deny that Christians have not made the world a much better place in ways that secular humanists have not. Now, one may say that secular humanist cultures are relatively new and so haven't had enough time to generate the same amount of positive change. That could be true, but research pushes back on this. Numerous studies show that religiosity is associated with more charitable giving to religious and secular organizations. On slide 11, a systematic review says, "Our systematic literature review, covering 77 studies, reveals that religion, measured as group affiliation, values, beliefs, and the importance of faith to the believer, as well as religious service attendance and private prayer, most often positively relates with giving to outgroup and secular organizations." Another study on slide 12 looked at 53 total nations and found that frequent churchgoers are more active in volunteer work and that a devout national context has an additional positive effect. So when a nation is religiously Christian, volunteer work is increased across the board. Religious citizens also volunteer more for secular organizations. But when a nation secularizes, religious individuals still volunteer at high rates, but secular individuals tend to volunteer less. They even say if secularization is an ongoing process in rich post-industrial societies, we expect declining levels of volunteering due to composition and context effects.
Yes.
Now, to be...
Well, you keep saying yes. You're agreeing with that?
I recently read a study on this, on charity in society in America and in different societies in different countries. Forgot which countries were involved, but primarily focusing on America. It was analyzing which religious group or non-religious group mostly contributes to charities, and Jews and a certain Christian group were the highest in terms of per capita people contributing to
No,
charities.
I think you mean Muslims. Well,
and agnostics and atheists and those who don't identify with a certain religion were very low compared to religious people, for example, which is quite interesting.
well, here's the thing, AP and IP. You guys are talking about various academic studies. My experience with atheist memes shows that when there are problems in society, Christians just pray while atheists do science. So atheists, they do science. So the Christian in the 1800s just sitting there praying about problems. Meanwhile, the atheist is in his lab with equations and stuff like that on the chalkboard. And then like later in the 20th century, the Christian is still just sitting beside his bed praying. Meanwhile, the atheist is in a way cooler lab filled with test tubes and stuff doing all his research. And then in the 21st century, the Christian is still just sitting there praying and doing nothing while the atheist is now heading to Mars. And
exactly.
That's what I've seen. See, so all these atheist memes completely refute all your academic research articles.
You see. Okay, there was one research which said that I made some notes on that somewhere. 92% of Protestants, 91% of Catholics, 91% of Jews, 89% of other religions give to charity. And in comparison, I think, what was that? Atheists and agnostics were very low. Have to get back to that. But yeah, that is those are general findings. It's quite fun.
I'm just confused because if it's possible to be racist against Islam, which is an ideology, could your comments about atheism be interpreted as racist against atheism?
Yes.
Okay. Now we know. Now we know, folks. Everyone be sure this comes up at the next election.
Clear secularists do give money to charities and volunteer time, but not at the level Christians do. Christianity has been one of the greatest institutions for wealth transfer from the rich to the poor in the history of humanity, and this is often accomplished through charity work. And as noted, numerous studies show that Christianity has made the world a much better place through missionary work. As the social scientist Arthur Brooks says, the difference in charity between secular and religious people are dramatic. Religious people are 25% points more likely than secularists to donate money, and 23 points more likely to volunteer time. And consistent with the findings of other writers, these data show that practicing a religion is more important than the actual religion itself in predicting charitable behavior. Now, you may think that Christians are only doing this out of obedience to God, but at least we're doing more. One may say secularists have better motives, but the fact remains, what is actually happening in reality? Christians tend to do more charity work. So the data indicate that Christianity leads to more charity work. And
I do want to point out, just because he's going into academic studies, I just want to give you first person, like I'm not talking about anyone else on the planet except me, although I guess I suppose there are other people like this. When I became a Christian, my view of what human beings are became different. It changed. You are you are a person who's created in the image of God. That changes my view. That changed my view of your significance in the universe. So that was one. Two, as far as moral laws, which before that, and atheists can have a bunch of different views on this. Mr. Zuckerman here probably has a completely different view from the one I had, but I viewed it as like along the lines of brainwashing by society and so on. And so when I changed my beliefs, my view of what these rules are changed as well. And so do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay, that becomes something that I believe is from it. In other words, it's not, oh, I have to go out and obey God so I don't go to hell. It's, okay, the rule is real. It's not something someone just made up and worked in a society. It's actually has a kind of, there's something authoritative. It's beyond us. So this, in other words, this isn't simply, oh, I'm going to obey God. It's real. It's something real, not something that a person made up. Because if a person makes something up, I think, why am I going to listen to that person? Why is that person's belief superior to mine or something like that? If something comes from a source that created us, that's in a different category. And so that, in other words, the things that I do are massively different from the things I used to do. And when it's not just, oh, now I'm going to be obedient, that certainly plays a role in it, but there's a bunch of other things that are involved, like what you view other human beings as, how you view ethical rules and so on. What is the source of them? Do you actually have a moral obligation to follow them, or is it just, something you've been taught to do or something like that? Anyway, there's a lot in there. And so if this guy, Mr. Zuckerman's position is going to be people just, Christians just doing, oh, we have to because we'll go to hell. He sounds stupid.
Inside a nation and outside its borders. And this has turn led to more economic progress, medical care, freedom, democracy, literacy, etc. If the nation secularized, this will likely decrease, which I think we can all agree is not a good thing. On this issue, Christian societies clearly outperform secular societies. As one famous sociologist, Phil Zuckerman, said in his book, religiously involved individuals also exhibit greater manifestations of prosociality than do those who are not religiously involved. Several studies have found that religious people tend to be more charitable, more generous, and more likely to volunteer and donate blood than their secular peers are. Furthermore, a proliferation of religious devotion, faith in God, and reliance on the Bible has historically been a determining factor in establishing schools for children, creating universities, building hospitals for the sick, and homes for the homeless, taking care of orphans and the elderly, resisting oppression, establishing law and order, and developing democracy.
It's kind of funny. He's quoting the dude's book, too. So he makes his claims, cites his studies, and then quotes the dude's book to show that the dude says the exact same thing. So anyway, it's fun.
Christianity clearly generates far more prosociality than does secularism. The next issue I want to focus on is the rise of nationalism and right-wing authoritarianism. With the recent rise of Christian nationalism, many people are worried about the effects of Christianity. But they might be surprised to find out that research has found that Christian nationalism seems to be more motivating among the least churched individuals on the right. A study from 2021 found that among politically right individuals, Christian nationalism was found among the least religious or churched. To quote, "We find no evidence that Christian nationalism mobilized church-based support in the election. This is demonstrated by the fact that in our results, Christian nationalism is only strongly associated with Trump support for voters who do not attend religious services. Among religious attenders, the effect of Christian nationalism on Trump voting is not only weak, it is also not statistically different from zero. White nationalist groups in the United States explicitly use Christian nationalist rhetoric, but those who identify with such movements tend not to be strongly involved in mainstream Christian congregations."
Wow, did everyone catch that? That's interesting stuff. That's interesting stuff. So how many times did we hear warnings about Christian nationalism, and Christian nationalism is responsible and it's because of Christians and so on, and these things are happening? And he's showing that the Christian nationalism is primarily influential among Christians who, aren't even really going to church and stuff. In other words, a bunch of dorks on Twitter and stuff, gripers and stuff. Oh, we're going to get our Christian nation and we're going to kick out everyone else. And so apparently the more devoutly Christian you are, the less inclined you are to be calling for a Christian-only nation and expelling everyone else. Interesting.
That is very, very funny. It's kind of it's very funny. It confirms this whole idea that these extreme ideas are just are ways for certain people who don't really do much for the religious beliefs that they purport to hold. It's just a way for them to channel their to overcompensate for their lack of actual faith and worship and action and all that. It's pretty pathetic.
And so it's more along the lines of people who have some agenda, like the gropers. We want to get rid of Jews and pretty much everyone else who isn't a white Catholic. That's the gropers. In other words, it's more like these guys are using a religion as a tool to get what they actually want, rather than they're motivated by their religious convictions. It's more they're motivated by something else, and they use religion in order to, as a tool to get what they want.
We want to grope.
Similar results were found in Europe, for example.
The gropers.
One study found that although populist
the gropers are going for the Jews.
right parties tend to advertise themselves as defending Christian identity and values.
Wait a minute. They call themselves groipers. Do they say like we're groiping them or something like? Do they say that, or is that they just call themselves groipers and they don't use it?
I think it's some stupid thing based on a frog meme.
Yeah, but what's it got to do with a frog meme?
I don't know.
I don't know what. We're too old. We haven't been paying attention enough. You know more than I do. But I'm just wondering if it's like, yes, oh man, Nick Fuentes just totally groiped that dude. I'm wondering if they use that as a term. Like if
I actually sat down and
if it's
tried to
it's groiper. If it's groiper, that sounds like someone who groipes, a person who groipes. And so I don't know what groiping is, but it means that groip is an action, and that you could therefore be said to groip someone. Ha! I just groiped the crap out of that dude. But I don't know what that would mean. What's that?
I actually sat down one day and tried to find out what in the world that groiper term and name is supposed to mean and why they are using that. And
sounds like a fish to me.
In the end, nothing made sense. It's like I actually sat down and tried to research, and I couldn't get to any proper conclusion. Nothing made sense in the end, and that just seems very indicative of what kind of a movement these people are representing.
We should start using it. Like, oh, hey, remember when Nick Fuentes entered the conversation and said it's groiping time, and then groiped all over the Jews?
Yeah.
It sounds
the funny thing is,
it sounds stupid.
Look here, I'm looking at Wiktionary groiper right now, and it says groiper, internet slang, a large green cartoon toad with a strange mischievous expression similar to Pepe the Frog, and second meaning is alternative letter case form of groiper, member of certain political groups, and then it links to the article about the gropers, and then it explains that possibly. It is a common hypothesis seems to be a blend of goy, Gentile, and groper, sexual assaulter, probably in reference to the illustration's associations with the political group.
That's the one that actually makes the most sense. They're gropers, but they're obsessed with Jews and how a Jew, what the Talmud says about us.
So they're it seems like they're a bunch of proud Gentile sexual assault perpetrators.
The Jews call us the goy, but we go around grabbing women on the bottoms on the subway because we're gropers.
We don't care about consent. Consent is a Jewish conspiracy. We just grope when we want it.
Oh boy. All right, here we go.
Christian nationalism mobilized church-based support in the election. This is demonstrated by the fact that in our results...
Let me fast forward through this a little bit because we read this. All right.
Tend not to be strongly involved in mainstream Christian congregations. Similar results were found in Europe, for example. One study found that although populist radical right parties tend to advertise themselves as defending Christian identity and values, they don't attract many religious voters. PRR parties tend to take pains to show that they are defenders of Christian identity and values, and yet they do not widely attract religious Christian voters. Our analysis confirms this paradox. As religiosity increases, the odds of voting for a populist radical right party instead of a mainstream right party decline. On slide
Guys, this is, I mean, I don't want to keep interrupting, but I just want to emphasize that this is important because we've seen two things already. One, we have the atheist memes that are, religious people just sit around and do nothing. They just sit around and do nothing except pray. But atheists actually go out and do stuff. Okay, that may make perfect sense to you in a meme. It's just not. It's not reality. We have 2,000 years to show that that is complete idiotic nonsense. We have endless studies to show that that is idiotic nonsense. And then here, over and over again, during the election, leading up to the election, we heard that the great threat was Christian nationalists who are trying to support Trump to get a Christian nation and so on. And so the real threat is Christianity and people taking it seriously. And IP pointed out, actually, the research shows that it actually appeals to people who aren't taking Christianity very seriously. In other words, nominal Christians. They're the people who, yes, we will unite around this and get rid of everyone we don't like in the name of Jesus.
20, I have additional research, which found that anti-religious sentiment has been found to be more distressing to individuals who do not attend a regular church service. Unchurched Christian nationalists are more likely to favor an authoritarian figure using populist appeals. In fact, Christian religiosity tends to aid in making one less likely to vote for a far-right radical party. One may ask why this is the case, but the logic actually isn't complicated. When individuals on the right leave traditional Christian
Don't you know that 150% of all wars in human history are because of religion?
Liar! It's 10,000% of wars. Guys, in other words, already, it's like, here's the thing. When I'm talking about like the memes and we've got these memes, and then you have actual research. You know, it's easy to make fun of the memes because it's just something someone makes and puts on Twitter. But those memes are basically the level of argumentation you saw in like Dawkins' God Delusion and Sam Harris's End of Faith and stuff. It's basically them thinking, here's what religion is in our minds. Now let's write a book about why that's what religion is. And meanwhile, research showing something quite different.
That's fun.
For a far-right radical party. One may ask why this is the case, but the logic actually isn't complicated. When individuals on the right leave traditional Christian religiosity behind, they tend to keep a lot of the symbols and cultural heritage and then reinterpret them in political ways, therefore creating political religions that have repurposed Christian symbols. As Philip Gorski said, loose from its religious moorings, religious nationalism floats free of the ethical tether of Christian ethics and drifts even further in the direction of secular messianism and political authoritarianism. Roger Brubaker said, it is precisely the ongoing erosion of Christianity as doctrine, organization, and ritual that makes it easy to invoke Christianity as a cultural and civilizational identity, characterized by punitively shared values that have little or nothing to do with religious belief and practice. On slide 23, we see similar results with attitudes towards immigration. One study looked at acceptance of refugees at the individual, regional, and national level. It found on the individual level that Christians, with the exception of Catholic Christians, and the unaffiliated are relatively similar in their policy preference regarding the admittance of refugees. Religious service attendance is associated with more generous policy preferences. But at national and regional levels, percent unaffiliated is associated with more restrictive preferences. 2017 study looked at anti-Muslim sentiment in Western Europe from before the European immigration issue and found that, although more secularized countries are on average more tolerant towards Muslims and Islam, the strongest anti-Muslim attitudes are nonetheless found among the non-religious in these countries. Additional studies have found that greater religiosity was linked to support for inclusive immigration policy.
What's that?
Was that supposed to be a positive point for...
Yep, that was supposed to be a point. And I guess that means we're non-religious. That makes sense for you, but apparently I'm non-religious. So he's saying like the most hostile towards Islam and so on would be among the non-religious in a society. I have to say that's. I mean, I'm trying to think of what in my experience would confirm that, because they're definitely Christians and they're atheists and there are Hindus, and there are Jews, and there are all kinds of people who have a problem with Islam. I'm trying to think of a different. I'm trying to think like, yeah, at church, at church is not a lot of, there's not a lot of complaining. I mean, matter of fact, I don't think in my church I've ever heard anyone complaining about Islam. So I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's more of a being like seriously anti-Islam is more of a kind of a fringe thing in Christianity.
The funny thing is, I can think of Germany, and in Germany, for example, the religious population, the religious Christian populace, was primarily the one that kind of did this whole thing, like open borders and invite them in, and just make peace and so on and stuff like that. Whereas the population that was generally known to be non-religious, less religious, were the ones who famously came out and started marching in the streets against Muslim immigration. That is something that did indeed happen in Germany. For example, there was this big movement of it is still around, just not as big as it used to, Pegida, which was patriotic Europeans against the Islamization of the Occident, or something like that.
It almost sounds like something that should mean pedophile or something, though. So get a better word.
Yeah, but those people were mostly led by people who lived in places that were primarily known to be non-religious, that were Eastern Germany, remnants of communist rule and things like that. Not very much the Christians. They were marching against the Christian Democratic Party, for example, which was opening the borders more and more to Muslims. It's kind of an interesting contrast to see. It seems a little bit different on the surface when you look at it in America. I don't know.
I don't either. It's interesting because as has been pointed out for many, many times, for 14 centuries, Christians in Europe understood you do not let Islam take over. And that was Catholics, that was Protestants, that was everyone. They all understood we do not let Islam take over. That doesn't work very well. And then in the 20th century, end of the 20th century, even more so after 9/11, then it became, hey, Europe said we need to bring in as many Muslims as possible, and that's the best thing we can do. I'm wondering if, because I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, hey, there's something about this that doesn't make sense. How do Christians understand for 14 centuries, have that basic level of common sense? You do not let Islam take over. And now you're pointing out that he's pointing out that you have nominal Christians that support certain ideas and so on. But he's saying that the serious Christians tend to have a more favorable view of Muslims and so on. And I'm thinking about why that might be the case. More recently, when again, 14 centuries of Christians said you're not coming here to take over, and now all of a sudden, yeah, we can't wait for you to take over. Please beat us. Please just destroy us. I'm wondering if because more recently, in recent decades, you have Christianity and alternatives Christianity and things attacking Christianity, and Christians are attacked for their past constantly, right? Like, hey, you Christians, look at how you've been for 14 centuries. You had the Crusades, you had all these things and so on. And then when we hear about Muslims, we're thinking of the past. We're thinking, oh yeah, man, there was those times when we're fighting wars and Catholics killing Protestants and Protestants killing Catholics and so on. Maybe there's a desire to kind of overcompensate by saying, yes, bring in as many as possible because we want to show you how open and tolerant we are. But like going overboard, because there are things in Christianity that would, like, okay, even those Muslims are created in the image of God. And if there are Muslims there who are suffering, then we need to try and help them if we can. That would actually be connected to things that he was saying about charity and because charity, you're trying to help others, but people can also take advantage of that. It's just like charity, right? It's just like you could give to a poor person, but when people know that you give to a poor person, there are people who will take advantage of that, who aren't poor, who will try to take advantage of that, right? Who will try to take advantage of you. And so Islam might be a system that says, okay, there are Christians who are interested in helping the oppressed. They're taught to help the oppressed. Therefore, let's portray ourselves as the most oppressed and the terrible victims of Islamophobia and bigotry and racism. And this will be appealing to European Christians who will have our backs. Something along those lines.
This is so weird. I was trying to find a research on Germany and attitudes on Islamophobia. The funny thing is that one research that I'm looking at, which was directly published, organized by the German government, showed that the majority, consistently over 50% over the last 2 decades in Germany, have always held that Islam is a threat to society, and also that. And also have explicitly disagreed with the statement Islam belongs in Europe. I don't understand one thing. If more than 50% of the population thinks like that, how do you end up consistently importing more and more and more and more of Islam and protecting it?
That's pretty much the true. That's pretty much true everywhere in Europe. Everywhere you go in Europe, you look at what the people want, and the people are saying, no, Islam is bad. We want less of it. And the politicians keep imposing more and more of it on them. And so, yeah, there is definitely something that's completely out of whack in Europe.
Funny.
Oh, AP thinks it's funny that your society is crumbling, Europe. AP, you heard it here. It's something for us to laugh at. Ha ha, Europe. Ha ha. In your face. What are you laughing at? See, look at him. You hear him? He can't even stop laughing as I'm pointing out that he thinks it's a giant joke.
It's hilarious, man.
So it seems that traditional Christianity works as a suppressor of political religiosity. Without it, this will increase as secularization increases, and this leads to authoritarian ideologies and the erosion of freedom and civil liberties. This should not be surprising, because as on slide 26, we see that research has found that Christianity is associated with citizen empowerment, voice and accountability, democratic values, human rights, etc., lower levels of corruption, these kinds of things. Humans tend to be naturally religious, even though a small minority can refrain from this. Removing Christianity means man's natural religious inclinations are harnessed elsewhere. In an increasingly secularizing world, they will be manifested into political religions, which often result in more authoritarianism, the erosion of rights, and other things. So keeping a society Christian seems to be better long term. Not only will we see more charity work, which results in multiple positive effects, but we'll also have more freedom and less political.
Just want to point out a comment here. Miss HGL said, I would never hold the past against Christians. They have changed, but Islam has not reached that changing point yet. This is actually a problematic view, Miss HGL.
Yep.
And I find it many, many times among atheists who will say, oh yeah, Christianity was violent for a long time, but then it had a reformation, and the Reformation made it peaceful and more enlightened. And so the same thing, it hasn't happened in Islam yet. And the idea is that this sort of thing is going to happen. It could happen in Islam because it happened in Christianity. That is a complete, massive misunderstanding of history. For 3 centuries, it never crossed any Christian's mind to go out and shed blood. It didn't happen. The Roman Empire then, the Roman Empire in the 4th century started adopting Christianity because Christianity had spread so much. The Roman Empire started adopting Christianity. But now you have the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire saying, "Oh yeah, and we're Christian now." They did not just stop their Roman Empire way of doing things. Now you ended up with, "Hey, now we impose this on other people." It hadn't crossed any Christian's mind up until then. You, as a Christian, you were preaching the gospel, and so Christianity became entwined with a government that is imposing, that believes that above all else in imposing order on everything. And so now you have a Christian Roman Empire hybrid. And then the Roman Empire breaks up and so on. But now you have countries and they have the same idea. And it takes a while and so on. But it takes a while to get away from that idea, these ideas of, hey, our job now as the Roman Empire, which is Christian, is to impose Roman Empire Christianity on other people. It takes a while to get away from that view. And so what you find is Christians looking back at the past going, hey, were we really supposed to be going out subjugating people as if we have a kingdom when Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world? Are we supposed to be doing that? So as a Christian, you can look back and say, there are certain things that there are lots of things that Christians did that we were not supposed to do according to Christianity. Jesus is your standard. So you have a means for judging Christians of the past and saying these guys were wrong. The difference is that in Islam, you look back and say, hey, were we right in trying to conquer the world and subjugate people in the name of Allah? No, you're not wrong. That is exactly what Muhammad taught. And so if you have, what do you call it? Christians change, but Islam has not reached that changing point yet. What do you mean by changing point? You mean a time when Islam says, hey, we're peaceful now? That would not be Islam, because you would be disobeying one of the core messages of Islam, which is you have to violently subjugate the world until Islam is the religion of everybody. Until what the Quran says, until religion is all for Allah.
Yep.
And Muhammad said, I've been shown the east of the east and the west of the west, and I've seen the authority of Islam ruled over all that I saw. This is a prophecy. Islam is going to conquer the world. It is a goal. The prophecies we read about Jews hiding behind trees and so on, this is a goal. They're aiming towards these things. You can't say, oh, now we're just going to reach a point where we don't want to do this to Jews eventually. Well, then you wouldn't be following Muhammad. In what sense would it be Islam if Islam, the definition of Islam in a nutshell is, it's the religion. Islam means submission. In its religious context, it means submission to Allah. But it's not just submitting to Allah. It's how you submit to Allah. It tells you how you go about submitting yourself to Allah. And how do you go about submitting yourself to Allah? By mindlessly and unquestioningly obeying everything Muhammad says. That's not me saying that. That's Surah 4 verse 65. If you do not unquestioningly obey and believe everything Muhammad says, you are not a true Muslim. So when you're saying, if you want to say, hey, let's get away from following the teachings of Muhammad, just live in peace with everyone. In what sense would that be Islam? What? It'd be Islam in name only. Whereas a Christian who doesn't want to subjugate the world, he's not supposed to subjugate the world. So anyway,
Sure.
I think this is kind of it's a problem, because lots of people, they're unfamiliar with history. They're unfamiliar with what Christianity teaches. They don't know what Islam teaches. They just say, oh, people in the past were violent. People now tend to be more peaceful. And so Christians, they change. And so Muslims can change too. If Christians deviate from the teachings of Christ, fellow Christians can always call them back to obedience to the teachings of Christ. It's reversed in Islam. It's, if Muslims start becoming peaceful, there will always be Muslims who say, what are you doing? You're in disobedience. And you look at the kind of Islam that is spreading most rapidly, it's not a peaceful Islam. It's a Salafi type, aggressive. This is what it is. Why? Because they're the ones who can point to their text and show this is what they're supposed to be doing.
That's what they do. In Christianity, wherever you want to approach it, if you want to go to the beginnings of the unification of Christianity in the West, the Frank. I'm thinking of Kenneth Owens and Frankists now when I say
Everything
Frank.
is about the Frank, the Frankist, and Frank started by Anne Frank.
The Frank, the Franks. So the empire of the Franks wasn't meant to be expansionist as in spreading the religion. It was just meant to unify a culture. And at some point, for example, it started expanding out of necessity. They started converting non-Christian pagans in the north to Christianity, for example, to put an end to the endless raids and so on. You can see in Christian history at certain points, Christian rulers and Christian societies resorting to certain exceptions, such as spreading the religion by force. In Islam, it is quite different. In Islam, that is the norm. It's not the exception. In Islam, you are supposed to do that. In Islam, this is not just a political decision that at some point somebody takes by mistake or out of necessity. In Islam, that is the entire foundation. I've so often cited a source that is an Islamic source, Ibn Khaldun, in his book Muqaddimah. He says very clearly that what separates Islam from other religions in the world, like Judaism and Christianity and so on, is that in Islam, the ruler is supposed to be in charge of both the society and the military, and it is his religious obligation to spread the religion by diplomacy or by force. This is always at the core of of politics in Islam. The same is not the case in Christian history, for example. Although, of course, there was violence in Christian history. There were endless wars in Christian history, but it's not meant to be that way religiously. So Christianity didn't get better because it changed. Didn't get more peaceful because it changed. Islam cannot change and then become more peaceful. The core is rotten. It has to die.
Or change.
No, Muslims have to leave Islam. They have a responsibility to leave this disgusting religion.
We invite all Muslims to the way of non-Islam.
Yes.
Religions and authoritarianism. Finally, I want to look at a pretty damning issue for secularism. A secular culture could create high levels of well-being and satisfaction, but it would not be good for humanity if it cannot sustain itself for multiple generations, because it would die out and possibly be replaced by less optimal cultures.
He's bringing it
so
up.
Any given culture must be able to sustain itself as part of the cases.
Finally, is he bringing up birth rates? What
did he just say?
I think he's bringing up birth rates. He's saying now that secularism has a problem if it makes it so that it can't sustain itself. There's a point I brought up probably, 10 or 12 years ago in a video about Dawkins, because Dawkins said that the sole purpose of a human being is to propagate a molecule. He said it is the sole purpose. And what he's talking about, keep in mind, you can have all sorts of purposes in your mind or in your culture or something like that. He's talking about, like, biologically what you are as a thing. Your job is to make copies of DNA, saying that's your purpose. And so I made a video saying, okay, if our purpose is to make copies of DNA, namely through reproducing, then Islam is the best. It enhances it maximizes us. It makes us flourish. Why? Because if we're just making copies, Muslims are the best at making copies. They have the highest birth rates. And atheists would be the worst. Atheists have the lowest birth rates. And so I basically argued, if you take what you say seriously, that the purpose of a human being is to make copies of a molecule, and this ideology enhances that and helps you fulfill your purpose, and this other ideology crushes and suffocates you from fulfilling your purpose, then according to your definition, keep in mind, I do not believe that our biggest purpose is to make copies of a molecule. That's Dawkins saying that, right? But if you think that is your sole purpose, then you've just destroyed your own position, because your own position is bad for fulfilling your purpose. It looks like Mike Jones is pointing that out because it's become more of an issue in recent years that human birth rates have been dropping as nations secularize. As nations go more secular, their birth rates drop. And then what happens? You bring in people from places that have high birth rates, but then you end up with lots of people from different parts of the world who aren't secular. And therefore, secularism ultimately undermines and destroys itself. I'm guessing that's where he's going. But let's see this.
Issue for secularism. A secular culture could create high levels of well-being and satisfaction, but it would not be good for humanity if it cannot sustain itself for multiple generations, because it would die out and possibly be replaced by less optimal cultures. So any given culture must be able to sustain itself as part of the case as to why it's good for humanity. Christian societies have historically been able to do this by producing replacement populations through sustainable birth rates, and later generations can carry on the culture, generate progress. But secularism appears to not be able to do this. The countries that have secularized the most, and who have the most people who have left traditional religion behind, have some of the lowest birth rates of any nation. In fact, as secularism has been exported around the world through the internet and media, all nations' birth rates have decreased. But secular nations are falling below replacement levels. Eric Kaufman notes that it's the conservatives and fundamentalists who are producing the most children because of religious tenets about being fruitful and multiplying. So he predicts in a few generations.
What's that?
I wonder what I'm pretty sure that IP has already researched this question fully and knows exactly what to say. But I wonder what the impact of advanced medicine and general advancement, human development, and so on, how that impacts the birth rates, how much of an impact it has, what kind of a factor it is, because religion makes for higher birth rates, yes, but then higher development also, regardless of religion, lowers the birth rates, and family planning comes in and this lowers the birth rates. But how does it affect each society? How does it influence different religious societies and so on? I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's a complicated network of connections because you're right. Even among Muslims, when they go to a more modern society, their birth rates tend to drop. They will still have, Muslims will still have the highest birth rates, even in like the United Kingdom and so on, but it will be lower birth rates than in lots of Muslim areas of the world. And so, because you're right, it's basically as a society modernizes, then people are more educated, which means that people spend more time in the education system, which means that the emphasis for young people is on being educated, and there can be an emphasis on becoming more and more educated. Like, don't you want to be more educated than other people? And so people end up going to college and so on. And then family life kind of gets put to the side. It's like, once I finish high school, then finish college, then get my career aligned, then I'll start worrying about having kids. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, your Muslim counterpart, who's also 25, so a woman in the West is 25 when she's thinking about having her first kid. Meanwhile, a 25-year-old in Afghanistan is on child number 6 or 7 by that time. So just having more things to do and having other things that are emphasized that are good in society gives you more options other than just your family and so on. But anyway, it's still a reality. It's still a reality that you have places in the world where there's not a lot to do and they just keep having more and more babies. What are you going to do about that when, because of the secularization of your society, you're no longer at the replacement level? So guys, he referred to replacement level. That's basically 2 parents producing 2 kids. You have a husband and a wife producing 2 kids. That's kind of your bare minimum for sustaining your society. You need about an average of about 2 children per 2 parents. And in other words, if you fall below that, if you're 1.8, 1.5, then your population will be declining, and you'll have fewer and fewer people. Eventually, you don't have enough people to enter the workforce to replace the workers who are dying off. Your government is aware of this. Your government is looking at this. Your government sees how many people are being born, and they look and say, we actually have an average of 1.2 per family. In other words, 2 parents are producing an average of 1.2 children. What does your government do? We need to import people, or we're not going to have enough workers to support our culture. And where do they get them? Other places in the world where you still have high birth rates. And so the point here is, if you cannot, secularists, if you cannot figure out a way to get people to have enough babies, then you're going to be replaced. And as of right now, Christianity is the only, serious Christians are the only things that are even close to competing. Muslims have higher birth rates than Christians, but Christians are the only ones who are who would keep things at replacement level. And really, what is it, AP? Was it Romania, Bulgaria? Where was it? There was a country that actually started giving incentives to people for having kids. That's the only secular option I can see, as far as like governments actually rewarding people for having kids. In other words, instead of bringing in people from Pakistan, instead of saying, hey, we need more people, so let's bring in people from Pakistan, instead saying, hey, let's reward families who are actually producing lots of children through, I don't know, higher tax breaks or something like that. I don't know, but there's got to be a way to emphasize the significance of having children so that you're not replaced by people from Pakistan.
I think it would be useful to implement certain laws, like outlawing fornication, outlawing adultery, punishing these things with death, and so on. This would probably force more people to get married and make more children. Could be a solution to look into.
Yeah. By the way, that is a theory of why religions that are very heavily influenced on, we are going to make families that make babies, like why those cultures actually flourish more in the world, because they're the ones having kids and passing on their ideas to their kids and so on. But it's sort of this double thing in the sense that I made a video recently about like the new atheist spreading atheism. And if we can just get people to turn away from religion, then, we'll get our scientific utopia and so on. What happens? They just start getting crushed by Islam. And part of it is, if you have a group of people saying, we have been commanded by Allah Almighty to come in and subjugate you, and he's going to reward us with an eternity of deflowering virgins for our efforts to subjugate the world. People are pretty highly motivated, the ones who take that message seriously. If you take the message of atheism serious, I'm talking about the new atheism, the Richard Dawkins, we need to go out and... You listen, and Richard Dawkins was repeatedly asked by Jordan Peterson. He's asked to justify sort of his preferences and so on beyond just being preferences, and say, hey, you say that Christianity is better than Islam, eh? So so there's a hierarchy, right? And Dawkins said, yes, there's a hierarchy, right? And Christians get excited because he said Christianity is better than Islam. And Dawkins himself pointed out that's not great praise. Saying that you're better than Islam is not tremendous praise, right? Because he doesn't have a high view of Christianity. He thinks that Christianity is better than Islam. And so we would assume, he didn't say that in that particular discussion, but we would assume that, an enlightened scientific atheism is way better than either one. Well, what's that mean? He agrees there's a hierarchy, right? Things are better than others. Okay. Is this better than this and this better than these just from your personal preferences, or is one really, really better than the other? Like objectively, according to certain criteria, better than the others? And all Richard Dawkins would say, well, I prefer. Okay. And here was my message of that video at the end of that video. If your message is, well, I prefer this to this, and I like this better, because that's what Dawkins keeps saying. I like the sound of cathedrals, and I like this, and okay, if you're going out saying, I like this, but there's no real truth to it at the bottom, here are my personal preferences, I like this, other people like that, and you've got this other group saying, we're going to crush you in the name of Allah. I'm going to kill you. That group is going to crush you. That group is massively more motivated, more focused, more driven, and they are going to crush you. But that's separate from the idea that as the more atheistic a society becomes, the more secular and atheistic a society becomes, the more the birth rates drop farther and farther below the replacement level. And therefore, the more secular you become, the more immigrants you bring in from the Muslim world. That's what you do. And so you're bringing in more people who promote an ideology which is stronger than yours. I'm not saying more true or more correct or more rational or anything else. I'm saying it's stronger in the sense of it motivates people to go out and spread it more than yours. You guys are just like, this is a huge point that Mike is bringing up right now, that what is better for the world, Christianity or secularism? If secularism ultimately causes the collapse of societies, because it lowers birth rates so much that you can't even replace the people, and you bring in more until you completely destroy your own societies by ideologies from other lands, that would kind of be like the worst thing imaginable. Imagine you say, hey, here's a society over here. Is this idea good for the society? But you know that the idea, once the society adopts it, ultimately destroys the society after a couple generations. Is that good for society? Hey, we've got this idea. Let's spread this idea on society. What's it going to do? Oh, it's going to destroy the society and have it replaced. Okay, well, is that good for on what planet is that good for society? That would seem to be like the worst thing imaginable for society, right? Wild stuff.
We live in a society.
We do indeed. All right. I think Mike is wrapping up here. Let's see what happens.
The religious will take over and the secularists will be in the minority. Similarly, evolutionary biologist Michael Bloom argues religiosity has been selected for its evolutionary advantages because it results in more offspring. On slide 32, this study conducted a multivariable analysis looking at 58 countries and found that secularism, even in small amounts, is associated with population stagnation or even decline absent substantial immigration, whereas highly religious countries have higher fertility rates that promote population growth. Many of the modern secular nations have to rely on immigration to deal with their aging and declining populations. But that means importing people from other cultures that tend to be more religious, who will go on to have more children and over time increase in population and replace the declining secularists. And also, Kaufman notes, if pious children simply assimilate into the secular mainstream, the radical effect of religious fertility quickly dissipates. So secularism doesn't seem to be something that could endure.
Guys, just that last point real quick. Just wanted you to understand it. If you have religious people, they're having lots of kids, but if those kids become secular, fertility rates drop. Fertility rates drop. So who retains the high fertility rates?
Me.
The people who take their religion seriously.
Multiple generations. It has to rely on immigration from other cultures to keep its population level sustained. But this opens it up to being taken over by harmful cultures like Salafi Islam, where rights and freedom will be removed.
I thought you were saying something different when you made that sound.
What?
Who retains high fertility rates?
That's what I do.
Now I get it.
That's what I do, weirdo. What did he just say? Did he just call Salafi Islam a problem? Because that would be pretty racist. Let's see what he said.
There are multiple generations. It has to rely on immigration from other cultures to keep its population level sustained. But this opens it up to being taken over by harmful cultures like Salafi Islam, where rights and freedom will be removed, especially for women. Even if it is eventually replaced by a more optimal culture like Christianity, the point is still that secularism is unsustainable. It cannot produce long-lasting progress, well-being, if it slowly diminishes and is replaced by something else. Christianity, on the other hand, is able to produce sustainable cultures that endure and have historically led to a ton of human progress, thereby making the world a better place. Secularism cannot do this and therefore is not as good as Christianity has been. Now there are many other variables we could look at, but I don't have time to cover in this opening statement. But in terms of charity work, pro-sociality, generating progress, keeping authoritarianism at bay, Christianity clearly has much better aspects than secularism. Secular societies also do not provide replacement populations, and so cannot generate progress. They cannot endure. Because of all these factors, I would say Christianity is clearly better for humanity, and I will yield the rest of my time.
Secularism can't be good because it just destroys you.
And I don't even need more time. I'm done.
I don't even need more time. I now rest my airtight case. Wow, wow, wow.
That is pretty funny.
Dude, it is weird in the sense that we've talked repeatedly about, okay, if atheism were true, what would make sense? I think you'd say, okay, if atheism were true, what people believe wouldn't make a terrible difference as far as your belief in like an afterlife or something like that, unless it's causing you to misbehave or cause problems in society in various ways. Why would you as an atheist care if this Christian over here believes this or if this Muslim believes this about paradise, unless it's causing him to like wage jihad on you or subjugate you or something like this? I guess you could say, well, given other things that happen in society, then we should be concerned about, especially if you believe in this, what compelled the new atheists to rise to popularity, which is religion is going to destroy society unless we get everyone to abandon religion, then it will save society and so on. But I mean, think about this. If atheists are genuinely the super rational, evidence-based people, guys, we have mountains of evidence saying that if the more people adopt your view, the more it's going to destroy your society and you'll be replaced by Salafi Islam. We have endless amounts of evidence that show this. It's happening right in front of your faces. Go to London and look around at what's happening. We have endless trunks of evidence to show what is happening. You have very poorly planned out your takeover of the world and rescuing the world. You didn't get your scientific utopia. You apparently have no idea what you do. I'm not even saying it can't be done. I'm just saying you don't know how to do it yet, and therefore you should probably not be implementing a plan when you have no clue what you're doing. That's the reality. And the question is, like, how does Richard Dawkins not get this? How does someone as smart as Richard Dawkins and these other high-level atheists, to be fair, you do have tons of atheists who've caught on and kind of dialed it back. This isn't going the way we thought it would. But you still have the sort of, some of the new atheists who are still just doing the exact same thing as 20 years ago. And we have a lot of new evidence in. Like we've tried your ideas for 20 years. It has not worked out in any good way. Why are you still clinging to it? Why are you still saying we need more? We need more of this. We need more of this that destroys society. How? How are you not seeing this? You have the evidence. You have the studies. And what do you guys? Here's the thing, AP. What do you call it when this isn't what we mean by it. This is what Christians mean by it. But the atheists, what they say we mean when we say we have faith is this: we're going against all the evidence. We're saying, oh, all the evidence says this, but we're going to believe this thing that's the opposite of that. And they say that's what faith is. And that's not what biblical faith is. It's that you trust God on things because of things you already know about God. So I know God, I know this, and this about God. Therefore, I can trust God with all these other things. I can have faith. I can have faith in these things. I can have faith that things are going to work out. I can have faith in what happens in the future because I know who I know who I trust. But atheists say, no. You say you have faith in the absence of evidence. Okay, if all the evidence tells you that your ideas are not helping, you're not getting your scientific utopia, and you're paving the way for Islam, and you just believe the opposite in spite of all the evidence, wouldn't that be like what you guys mean by faith? I mean, you guys are saying, oh, this is what religious people mean by faith. But wouldn't this mean that you have faith, like blind faith in the blind sense? All the evidence tells us we are destroying our own societies, but we're going to believe that if we keep doing the same thing, we'll get our scientific utopia.
It would mean this is natural selection.
This is. And this, by the way, what you just said, natural selection. Remember, Dawkins applied the idea of a gene replicating to the idea of a meme replicating, ideas replicating. But that's the same thing, right? Like certain ideas flourish and spread more rapidly than other ideas. And they have a kind of fitness. They have a kind of fitness that enhances their spread. Well, if you have a meme that affects the spread of your genes, that should be the next step, right? Like combining the ideas, like he's got the idea of a gene and then he says there's a parallel in the world of ideas and that's the meme. But wait a minute, if your meme actually undermines the spread of if the spread of your meme undermines the spread of your genes and then ultimately destroys your meme and your genes, isn't that kind of funny?
Maybe that's just what you deserve. Maybe that's just what you deserve. That's natural selection.
You get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. You came up with a stupid idea that destroys your societies. And then when your society gets destroyed, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be complaining about religious people for destroying your society that you destroyed. You giant walking clown emojis.
As said, I mean, there has to be a different alternative, and I would always propose, even if you want to have a secular society and a secular system, it should be one where at least
where at least I know I'm free. Oh, sorry.
Yes, where you outlaw casual sexual relationships and force everyone to get pregnant.
You crush everyone. You turn women into baby making machines.
Yes.
Yeah, and AP, I think we're on the same boat. And I just said it a minute ago. I said, I'm not saying there's no way to make your secular, I'm not saying there's no way to make your scientific utopia work. I'm just saying, whatever it is, this is why we always go back to Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche's idea was, hey, you're getting rid of God. You better have something really, really big to replace that because you have no idea what this is, how many things this is connected to. And if you just toss it aside, you need something really huge to replace it. And so I don't think it will work. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I'm just saying if you want to try it, then you need to try it with something big. Like try it with something big. Don't try it with this. We're going to go around and toss memes online and then we'll get our sign. No, you're not. You're not getting that at all. Look around you. You sound stupid. So,
you know what the thing is that the issue is. When I look at the whole discussion around population growth and not making enough babies and going extinct, in all honesty, it's like I don't really care much about it. and I don't really think that it is much of a case of urgency. I mean, I know that importing Islam into your societies while you refuse to make while you refuse to preserve or increase your own population will result in something disastrous. It's in the end, it's a little bit difficult to tell people, to give people the idea that they just simply have to make more babies, and I don't think it's going to work out. And the bad thing is that society in general doesn't seem to be smart enough to catch up on the idea that that if you allow a very destructive idea into your society unchecked, and you just allow it to be destructive as long as it can, and you still hope that it will just not do all of those things that you are afraid it would do, it will end badly for you. It will end badly for you and your own society. For my part, I find it useful to tell people about the dangers of Islam and the all the bad things about Islam, just so that I can maybe help some people go against it and help change something, help save some aspects of society. However, if in the end people end up just going basically making their smarter part go extinct and submit themselves to the religion of submission, well, so be it. It's just that humans just didn't deserve better, I guess.
I have to say, we've talked about this. We've talked about this many times. There's always that element, right? Like you look at what's happening in Great Britain, and there's always that part of it. I mean, when me and Robert Spencer are doing This Week in Jihad, and we're talking about everything that's going on in France, everything that's going on in Germany, everything that's going on in the UK, there's always that part of me. You get what you deserve. This didn't happen on its own. You guys asked for this. You put politicians in place who told you they were going to do this, who have a track record of doing this, and you keep going along with it. With that said, there are, again, it's most of the people in these countries don't actually want this, but they're the ones who suffer. Their politicians, down the road, their politicians may suffer for this, but right now their politicians live in posh neighborhoods and so on. And it's the regular people who have to deal with this. So you got the regular people, they're the ones who suffer. And they're the ones, like even the UK, now they get arrested for even complaining about it. But anyway, it's this weird situation where you literally brought this all on yourself. You said, hey, what do we want? We want more of the guys screaming that they want to kill apostates and take our daughters. And so we can't get enough of these guys. Okay, when you get bad consequences, yeah, there's going to be part of us who's just, you asked for it, you giant morons. But again, it's the people who didn't ask for it that are the problem, right? There are people who definitely, the 12-year-old girl who's being gang raped, she's not the one who decided that. That decision was made for her by politicians and by people who voted those politicians into power. So yeah, it's a sucky situation. And I guess AP's idea is, hey, if human beings are just so incredibly stupid and easy to manipulate that you can actually just shame them by calling them Islamophobes into being subjugated by Islam, maybe you just didn't deserve the freedoms that you had anyway. So
I mean, just look at this. I must say I have gotten significantly more, I don't want to say pessimistic.
That's what I was going to say about you.
A little bit more, people call it black pilled nowadays, but a little bit more realistic and a little bit harsher in the face of certain things since the whole Israel war started, where Israel actually, unlike Europe, is doing what a self-respecting society would do, and what a society that cares about its own citizens would do, and fights back and protects itself and so on, and doesn't listen to the noise of Western, so-called human rights organizations and all that, saying, oh, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to be nice, you have to be sweet, you have to give them flowers and all that. Israel says, you know what, we don't live in such a world. We know exactly what kind of a world we live in.
They have a more realistic picture of the world.
We live in the real world. In the real world over here, being nice to each other and singing and dancing together doesn't work. So please shut the F up and let us do our job and defend our own people. Europe cannot do the same thing. Europe has become so pathetic and so soft and so weak and so suicidal and idiotic that I don't know what to say anymore, So I still keep up my hope in influencing some people, maybe, and want to talk about Islam where it matters, because I think as long as I breathe, there is hope. As long as I breathe, as long as we are alive, there is some hope, and maybe we can change some minds and all that, and that is what we do. But again, the contrast between Israel and Europe, and the fact that Israel gets so much hate right now for doing what Europe should have been doing all these decades, just shows to me that we live in a strange world.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had a little of that. Okay, here are terrorists who want to destroy us. Let's crush them. Let's hunt them down and crush them to keep them from doing that. Yeah, Europe, across Europe. What? How could you do that? No, what you need to do is open your arms to the terrorists and bring them into Europe and let them rape your daughters. It's the only way. How dare the Jews not do that? One correction, though, AP. You said the Jews said, oh, this singing and dancing doesn't work. Wrong. Jews love singing and dancing. I've seen it in your face.
That's true.
Hey, you have Carefur here saying atheists don't have to make people feel bad to feel good themselves. Which atheists? Carefur, because in my videos I usually distinguish between like what used to be dominant atheism, and then you got the new atheism. The new atheists, no, they really, really, really need to make people feel bad to feel good. They're the ones, oh, we're smart, everyone else is dumb. Do you want to be part of the smart group? You have to join us, otherwise you're a religitard. What do religious people do? They sit around praying and doing nothing for the world, while atheists go out and do science, and we're the ones who send people to the moon. That's
And you talk to Sky Daddy.
Yeah, in other words, Carefur, what planet are you living on right now? Because you say atheists don't need to do this. It's almost like you saying religious people sit around praying. Atheists don't go around insulting people and calling them stupid. Where? What planet do you live on? Okay.
Yeah, but have some respect for my boy Carver. Carver is based.
No, I know that's a regular here, but I got to call it out. I got to call it out when he's atheists. We're so nice, and we just go around trying to make everyone feel good.
Carver is. I don't know anything about Carver, but Carver is one of my favorites in the chat. Mm-hmm. But what you just said about Jews liking to dance and sing, you know what's so funny? I sometimes think this, but I don't know how to express it without sounding offensive to everyone involved. But I see people having all these stupid conspiracy theories about how these Jews and these sects, and who knows what they do, and they're trying to control the world.
Frankists.
And it turns out that they're more like a bunch of hippies, and it's kind of it's so weird to me.
wherever like AP. I mean, we went all over Jerusalem, old city. We were in the new part of Jerusalem. We were all over Tel Aviv. Where do you get the idea of like sitting around in this room like these masterminds of now we will destroy the world by importing this into their society and destroying it from within? And they're all like singing and dancing everywhere they go and stuff.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's fun. It is hilarious.
Oh boy. All right, let's take a couple super chats, and then we'll hear what our buddy says. We're probably certainly not going to go through the entire debate, but we want to hear what this guy's arguments are, because I'm sure it's going to be. He is a sociologist and a professor, and he's written books. AP's bot side accounts make up 12% of the chat. Actually, it's 11% because based Christianity is at 89% right now. So 11%. Get it right next, Zakir Naik. You're no more accurate than the real Zakir Naik. Can an Islamic state ever be as productive culturally, artistically, as a Christian or secular state?
It can if it decides to just destroy itself. Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of depends on what you mean by culturally. It's like they would say, of course we're culturally superior. Look at the superior culture of Afghanistan. Kind of depends, right? It kind of depends on what you mean by that stuff. Let's see. This debate was painful. Don't get your hopes up. What are you talking about? We just listened to Mike Jones. That wasn't painful. IP did his research. Phil just showed up, honestly. Good. You see that? Devin says Phil showed up with the truth and the research.
I have to say one thing, though, David.
What?
Don't you agree that especially among prominent figures, those who have most openly spoken out against Islam, for example, against Islamization and the dangers of Islam. Some significant figures were actually atheists, not Christians, over the last few decades.
Tons of them. And even
Christopher Hitchens is a very well-known one who has openly
the new atheists, especially the leaders. It was less common among the regular new atheists, like the regular foot soldiers. The leaders of the new atheists tended to all be like, yes, we have a problem with religion in general. Yes, we're going to attack religion in general, but we have a really big problem. They understood there is a hierarchy, and this one is the really bad. The problem is, who's around them that they're attacking? They're attacking mostly Christians and Christian ideas. And so the Muslims aren't really listening to them as much because Muslims aren't in those, going to those schools and so on. So it's having a bigger impact on a young generation of Christians. So they're ultimately paving the way. But no, I mean, Sam Harris, Dawkins,
Christopher
Hitchens, not so much Dennett. Dennett, I've said before, is like the smartest, but he was not the best communicator of his ideas and so on. But even other people, Bill Maher and so on, he's friends with Sam Harris and so on. So yeah, there have been tons of, Here's the thing. When the new atheists came out, it was, look what just happened, 9/11. This is what religion does. So we need to respond to religion. And along the way, they are saying, hey, we are especially concerned about Islam. Sam Harris called it the motherlode of bad ideas. But their followers are a bunch of like young high school and college students whose grandma made them go to church, and they're angry at that. They're more angry at that, and that's who they end up taking it out on. But you have all these other associated ideas like, okay, your ideas do somehow lower birth rates and so on, and so this is ultimately doomed. So yes, an atheist can have a very good point against Islam. A Muslim can have a good point against something, Hindu. So we're not saying that there are people here who are totally wrong or there are people who are totally right. As IP pointed out, this is, okay, which is better? Okay, secularism has some serious problems that you need to deal with. And until you deal with those, secularism can't be better for society because secularism will ultimately not even be able to sustain a society.
That moment of Sam Harris sitting at Bill Maher with Ben Affleck and telling him, look, bad ideas, but Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas. And Ben Affleck.
And then watching Ben Affleck, oh my God, that's gross. Racist.
That should be considered a golden moment on TV in religious discussions.
That was huge. That was huge. And really, that's actually part of the problem, because you had all kinds of people watching going, wow, Sam is right on the money. And they think, oh, he's on the money. He's right on the money on other things. No, he might be kind of disastrous on other things. It also illustrated kind of the divide between, because those guys would have all considered themselves like on the left politically. But you saw kind of a division there where, okay, here are us guys who actually believe in certain liberal values, and Islam is a threat to those things. And other guys are just part of like the Hollywood crowd, and they cling to the idea that Islam is good, and they have to be the supreme defenders of Islam all day. And it really, drew a bunch of attention to that, showed Ben Affleck looking like a complete moron, although I don't know if that was ever in doubt. But yeah, no, I mean, you can... There's no, hey, I like something Sam Harris said, therefore Sam Harris is right about everything. That's problematic thinking with anyone you're pointing at. But Sam Harris has said awesome things in the past. He said really dumb things in the past. Bill Maher has said awesome things. Bill Maher has said really dumb things. It's like Bill Maher. I made a video about it. He's like he'll sit there and in one video he'll quote a poll showing that the new generation, the young generation in America is the most atheistic generation there's ever had. The crowd cheers and stuff. You see, we're making a difference. And in his next show, he'll be pointing out that the young generation is the dumbest, most gullible generation in history and stuff like. How are you not making the connection here? You're saying, hey, isn't it great that all these young people are becoming atheists? And then in your next thing, you're showing that these are the most gullible and easily manipulated group that you've ever had. How are you not making the connection there? Anyway, so it's just if people say something that's true, you say, great, that's true. Some people say something dumb, you say, okay, last week you said something that's great and true, but right now you're saying something that's really stupid. Norm says secularist arguments boil down to, don't tell me what to do, Dad. We don't like the sky. We don't like your sky, Daddy. I don't know how we can debate this. Most of our society is based on values from religion. Well, you have lots of ideas that are based on values that are derived from religion. You could make the claim, I'm not defending it here, but you could make the claim that there are still better ideas, and it would be better to follow these other ideas. And the question is this guy going to be able to show that secularism has better ideas? Michael answers yes. Atheism or Christianity, which is better for humanity? That's kind of a joke. You can always answer this either or by just saying yes to it, because logically, if you're saying one of these would have to be better, and therefore the answer could be yes.
Yes.
Seek the cross. AP, what do you think of Proverbs 34? Lord bless. Chapter 30, verse 4. That one's interesting because that gets used in the New Testament by the Apostle Paul.
The saying of a goose and Jacob and inspired utterance is man's utterance so to Ithiel. I am a weary God, but I can prevail. Surely I am only a brute, not a man. I do not have a human understanding. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I attained to the knowledge of the Holy One. Who has gone up to heaven and came down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son? Surely you know every word of God is flawless. I understand why you're quoting this. I see, however, how immediately you would understand this differently if you didn't go by the context that you want to go with. But that said, I don't think anything of this. I would need to read more of this to then give you to tell you what I think about it. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Let's see. This is a theory on Groypers. Someone bastardized Goyim and they just ran with it. It's like one of those dopes said, what'd they call us? Groyim? No, they called us Groypim. Okay, well, we'll call ourselves Groypers. I have End of Faith because school. Should I read it? I mean, it depends. What's the purpose? There could be all kinds of reasons for reading something. I mean, I read the Quran, not because I'm affirming it, but what's up?
You know, those people going about, Jews call people goyim. It's like,
break that down for everyone.
It's just another indicator that these guys have no idea about scripture, about their own religion that they supposedly follow. Many of them pretend to be Christians. They don't even know, and so on. It's so dumb. It's goyim. Right, goy simply means nation. It just means people. It is a word repeatedly used in the Bible to refer to different nations. It is even used when God speaks to Abraham and says that I will make your offspring a great nation. It is even used in that sense. He says, I will make I will make of you a great goy. So
no.
It talks about the Jews and says that they will be a great goy,
Liar.
A great nation.
Liar, it's from the Talmud, and it says that the goy with all the people who have to be killed and subjugated. We have to kill their kids and drink their blood and put our blood in our mouths. I read it on Twitter.
It literally, by Jews later on, it simply became a usage of separating your own community and those who are non-Jews. So, for example, you talk about certain laws, and then you talk about whether this is in reference to the Jews or to the rest of the people. The easy way to refer to the rest of the people became the goyim, for example, the goyim, the nations, the people. And the funny thing is that this is not just something that Talmudic Jews do. It is something that Jesus himself used. Jesus himself used it. The Gospels are written in Greek, but Jesus is reported several times as referring to people as Gentiles. What was most likely used there in the Aramaic or the Hebrew would be goyim. It is directly translated into Greek as ethnos, which is or ethnikos, which is directly the same word, the same translation, people, nations. So it's not something evil or something Jewish, something vile, some great conspiracy. These people are so ignorant.
AP, who are we going to listen to? You or Groypers? Huh? Who are we going to listen to? You or the Groypers who explain what Judaism teaches about these things? Come on, be realistic here.
But the Groypers.
Maybe you can make a video focused on the best charities for persecuted Christians. I don't know if I'd make a video, but I guess, I don't know. I guess it might be relevant for someone to like go through, because all these groups have ratings. But yeah, the Open Doors, Voice of the Martyrs, International Christian Concern. These are some of the main groups that deal with helping persecuted Christians and so on. Even if Christianity is false, it's better for humanity. And I mean, that is an important factor in this debate, is arguing, Christianity is better for humanity or secularism is better for humanity. There, you're not even arguing that one is true. You're just saying it's better in light of certain things. You can make the argument. In other words, even if even if you don't believe in secularism or Christianity, you could say, well, this one would be better. Just like you could sit back and say, okay, what's better for society? Hinduism or Buddhism? Hinduism or Islam? You could sit there and look at that and then figure out what criteria you're using and say, okay, well, based on these criteria, this one is better than that. And so, yeah, this debate, strictly speaking, is not this ideology is true or that one is true. This one is, hey, what is better for humanity? And I think Mike Jones here made a pretty airtight case, but we have not heard from our professor of sociology, who's written multiple books. Cost of living is also a factor. I guess cost of living. I don't know if there's good evidence on how cost of living is affected. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know if there's actual evidence on which kind of society affects cost of living the most. Which is less based, atheism or Islam? AP, what's your answer? Which is less based, atheism or Islam?
If you want to define based as brutal and ruthless, it would be atheism. But if we want to define it as a measure to define what is better or worse, then it would be Islam.
Who defines based as either one of those things you just said?
Lots of people.
Regarding Islamic replacement, could the apostate rate underperform the Muslim birth rate? Would that still be a problem? Is apostasy that frequent? Well, that's one thing we focus on, because you have it's called the avalanche of apostasy. But one thing you want to see is apostasy rates in Islam ultimately surpass the birth rates in Islam. With that said, even once you get to the point where global apostasy rates in Islam outstrip the higher birth rates in Islam, then what you would have is the total number of Muslims in the world declining. That doesn't necessarily do away with the problem. If your birth rates in Western nations are so low, if you have the lowest birth rates in the world, you're still going to be bringing in people, and you're still going to be bringing in lots of Muslims. And so, in other words, the population of Muslims in the world could be dropping, and you could still be destroying your own society, because you could be bringing in tons of Salafi Muslims still to replace all the people that you're not having. So, guys, again, at the end of the day, very, very, very important to have babies.
That's what they do.
We've already had a form of atheism, but Christianity won. Test other forms of paganism. Can't understand why Christianity won the culture war. Can't understand why Christianity won the culture war? Because it's the most based.
It is totally based.
Hey, David, how do you think everything going on right now fits into God's grand plan? It's interesting. You look at the parables and prophecies of Jesus. You have all these teachings and parables and so on that are about the kingdom of God expanding until it becomes like the biggest thing in the world, like the parable of the mustard seed and so on. Starts off really tiny, ultimately becomes this like huge thing. But also you have these prophecies about Christians being persecuted and subjugated and so on, and fleeing for their lives and so on, and being martyred and crushed and so on. And you wonder how's this going to happen if Christianity is growing and taking over, if Christianity is growing and expanding and becoming dominant in the world. How are they going to get crushed and persecuted? I don't know. Looks around. Seems like that's exactly how things are going. But with that said, I make no claims to understand God's plans beyond.
Don't ever mention mustard
trajectories.
seed in the presence of Nader Ahmed. Like, and here we come
And
to
it's
the
not even the smallest of seeds on the planet.
it
This
says
is a
mustard
huge
is the
blunder.
smallest seed. This proves that Christianity is false.
Don Juan says, us Spanish-speaking Catholics won't extinct, lol. Hey, you need to worry. You actually have some work to do, Don Juan, there, because Muslims are putting a lot of emphasis on reaching people in Central and South America with Islam. We've said that in recent years, Dawah has focused and become obsessed with finding people who aren't familiar with the Dawah script. There's still tons of people in America and Europe and so on who are ignorant about Islam, but there are way more people who understand the basics of Islam and responses to Dawah arguments now than there were, say, 10 years ago, or definitely like 15 or 20 years ago. And so the Dawah guys are focusing on other areas. And one of the things they're focusing on is other languages where you don't have the same video responses and so on available. So got work to do. Yes, I'm saying that those of you who speak Spanish, especially if you're from Central or South America, need to be learning these arguments and making videos in Spanish and Portuguese and so on.
I don't know why you're talking. This person said Spanish-speaking Catholics, and you immediately turned your attention towards Central and South America. What about Spain?
Spain is already toast. Spain has submitted. CO says, good old clap in the cheeks keeps the Muslims away. It's a strange way of putting it, but guys, it's actually true. If Western nations had fertility rates of 2 or more, governments would not be bringing in millions of workers from Muslim nations. They wouldn't. You'd have replacement level population. You'd be good.
I like fertility.
Let's see. 1/3 in Texas, born in 2008, was named Jose. Way better than Muhammad. I thought when I saw 1/3 in Texas, born, I was going to be like, what? Please don't tell me it's Muhammad. Glad to see my favorite Christian Muslim duo live, AP and Dawood. Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
AP the Christian. No, it's your favorite Christian and atheist. And AP is the closet Christian. I'm the closet atheist. Cultural productivity, development of music, art in the West, Mozart, Shakespeare. Constable said, could Islam produce equivalent? That's what I meant by saying it depends on what you mean, because, they produce a lot of... They're great at that sort of stuff. They're great at building nice mosques and so on. But yeah, anything that we would take seriously as a product of culture, Islam tends to not be good at it. What? About to say something racist?
Yeah, but I decided not to.
Good. See, he's learning here. He's learning. People change, ladies and gentlemen. AP.
I was actually going to say that there is, of
here
course,
he
one
goes.
aspect, which is that you claim Shakespeare and claim that this is a Western thing, achievement. Shakespeare was actually a Palestinian Muslim, and his name was Sheikh Kabir.
And then he came up with all these writings, and then they were corrupted by people who stole them. AP, agnostic, doesn't know what he believes. No bookshelf. A+. A+, IP. So that's IP there. Christian, knows the truth. Wall is made of books. Need I say more? That's true.
You see?
If anything else, if any other arguments fail, that argument is entirely successful. Let's say saying Sam said a dumb thing is a bit a stretch. You may not agree with some things he said, but dumb. Let's keep dumb to Cenk and no. Sam Harris has said all kinds of dumb things. When he was, he was on the Colbert Report with Stephen Colbert, and Colbert was asking him about various things, and Colbert said Jesus is born of a virgin, and Sam Harris said, yeah, but in a Muslim world, you'd be executed for saying Jesus is born of a virgin. Okay, that's a dumb thing. Right? Doesn't mean he's dumb. That's a dumb thing to say. It means he didn't know what he was talking about. I actually brought that up in a video. He responded. He said, I misspoke. Okay, totally fine. It was still a dumb thing. Then you had, I made a video about it where he's talking about whether Christian teachings are good and whether it's actually peaceful. And he's saying, yeah, if you catch Jesus in some of his good moments, you get wonderful things like the golden rule. But if you catch him at other times, he's commanding his followers, as for those enemies of mine, in Luke, as for those enemies of mine, bring them here and slay them before me. So he's making it sound like Jesus was commanding his followers to do that. Guess what, guys? My goodness, read the parable. Read the parable. One, it was something that actually happened. It's about a king. It's about Archelaus. It's about Archelaus. The parable's about Archelaus. Now you can apply that. Most people would apply that to the future judgment of God, namely your king goes away. He's eventually going to return. He's going to judge disobedience. So you apply that and so on. But this was not Jesus telling his followers to go around and kill. So no, Sam has said all sorts of dumb things. I'll say it 1,000 times. Guess what? If it helps, Moo Joe, I have also said all sorts of dumb things in my life. AP has also said all sorts of dumb things. Don't get offended.
Oh, I never say something dumb.
No, everything that AP has ever said is the most brilliant thing ever. Or it hurts my feelings. Some falafel sandwich said, thus said, what is that, AP? What's that say?
Huh?
It's in Hebrew. You're sitting there looking at Arabic, and we have Hebrew right in front of us.
Thus said, that's the name of God.
That's what I thought.
Thus said the Lord.
Because that's the saying, thus saith the Lord. Stand in the ways and seek and ask for the old paths where the good way is, and walk in it and find rest for yourselves. But they said, we will not walk in it. That's what they say. And that's why they get what they deserve. BB Mike King says, let's define what is the concept of Christianity and Christian people. Humans don't emulate Jesus 100%. Christ is perfect and his ideology. I said by 2050, Muslim population of UK, Germany, France could rise to 15-20%. That's not enough to turn them into Islamic states. Or, guys, look at some of these places where they have like 7%, 8%, 9%. AP has pointed it out with politicians and so on. Once you have 8%, 10% of the population, and then politicians trying to pander to them to get to consolidate that entire vote, then the entire state starts catering to them. I mean, look at the UK. You can't even object. You can't even raise a concern about people calling for the massacre of Jews and stuff. If you step out and say something, hey, I got a problem with this, or I got a problem with this killing or that killing or these grooming games, they lock you up. They lock you up. That's it. That's where you have, 7%, 8%, and so on. What do you think happens when it's 15 or 20%? And by the way, when you see 15 or 20%, you think, oh, that's still a minority. 15 or 20%. If you had a 15% Muslim population in the UK, what you would have is all of the major cities are majority Muslim and rural areas that are majority non-Muslim. And on average, you have 15 to 20% of the population is Muslim, but they're dominating all your cities. They're dominating your cities. So that can turn places into, it might not be an officially Islamic state, but I don't know. They tend to get more aggressive as the population rises.
Yeah.
And finally here, and then we'll jump into a little bit of this video, see what this guy's saying. It's a super sticker, Karen Fisher. Pear character. Still don't know why they don't show us the pear character, Ecamm. Pear character looking at himself in the mirror saying, thanks for being you, with hearts popping out of his eyes. I do like that.
Based.
Based.
You,
all right. Let's watch some of our sociologists. And guys, keep in mind, he's not a medical doctor, but he is a professor of sociology, which is the next best thing.
I'm a medical doctor.
It's the next best thing to break down problems with religion. And we certainly hope he rises above the level of the memes that we've seen many times.
I'm a medical doctor.
No, I'm a medical doctor.
Thank you, Michael, for that opening statement. Now it's you, Phil, and you will also have 15 minutes.
Woohoo! Thanks, Michael. Nice to see you.
What the?
Most impressed by your prep work.
What was that?
That was the worst beginning. That was the worst beginning to an opening statement I've ever seen in my entire life. I almost don't want to watch it now. Hang on. But I want to see that again. Here we go.
Have 15 minutes.
Woohoo! Thanks, Michael. Nice to see you. Most impressed by your prep work. Thanks for your kind words about me. Really made me feel good.
What is this?
I thought your opening statement was reasonable. I appreciated all the research you did. I appreciated all the studies you cited. So I appreciate you coming to this debate in good faith. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Nils. You covered a lot of ground, and I don't want to use my 15 minutes just trying to refute this and refute that and refute this and refute that. I don't think that would make anybody enjoy this debate. So I'll just use this 15 minutes as my opening statement, and then I guess we can go back through and pick apart some of the things you broached. And I thought...
So what I want to do in my opening statement is present my views, and then we'll actually respond to...
In my opening statement, I'm going to present my opening.
Yeah, so I don't want to actually just go into my rebuttal right now, since it's my opening statement. I think I'm going to focus on giving an opening statement, and then maybe during the rebuttals, we'll, rebut each other. What about that? Isn't that a revolutionary idea? Okay.
OMG. Have you ever thought about that?
Something not right here. Something's not right. There's a disturbance in the force. We'll see what happens.
Broached a lot of good stuff, and some was weaker, some was stronger, and we can get into that.
Woohoo!
It was interesting to me that what I didn't hear anything about blood sacrifice and how that saves us from everlasting torment in hell. I didn't hear anything about a virgin birth. So I'm not sure what your Christianity is. Is it just a bunch of people who claim to be Christian? Like, is it the Christianity of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Is it the Christianity of Idi Amin? Is it the Christianity of Martin Luther King? Is it the Christianity of Pat Robertson and Sarah Palin and Mike Pence? Unclear to me. I'm going to argue that there's different kinds of Christianity, and I think some are very beneficial to society, and some do a lot of good. And then there are really horrible and problematic aspects to Christianity that cause a lot of destruction and suffering and inhibit the best in human potential. So I don't really, I would never paint Christianity with one brush.
What's up?
I wonder if IP at this point thought, "Wow, this is
really
much
bad.
worse than I thought." What a weird thing to say in response. Because, and what IP did was obviously to directly go to the results of religion and show and demonstrate Christian societies, non-Christian societies, secular societies, and so on, what kind of Christianity we're talking about, and the certain Christian beliefs that we're talking about, the virgin birth, which, by the way, every single Christianity in question shares, and so on, are entirely irrelevant here. The so-called blood sacrifice, all of that is completely irrelevant here. I don't understand.
Yeah, if you are saying, is Islam good for the world, you could say, oh, but I didn't hear anything about Islam's perspective that, I didn't hear anything about Muhammad saying that women should breastfeed adult men in order to not be sexually attracted to them. I didn't hear anything about that. I'm just like, okay,
Exactly.
As a critic of Islam, I think that's an interesting criticism of Islam. But that wouldn't have a lot to do with the debate for me, right? It's like, okay, does Islam lead to positive consequences in the world? Does it make things better? He zeroed in on certain things that Christianity teaches and so on. And so it's a weird situation because, so the question is, which is better for society, Christianity or secularism? IP went, as you pointed out, went to the data. What does it actually produce? Guess what? The data includes various, because this guy said, hey, I think that certain kinds of Christianity are beneficial and other kinds are detrimental. The data incorporates all that, right? In other words, it says, okay, net positive, right? That includes examples where things have bad consequences. Just saying overall, on the whole, very positive for the world. So yeah, I get what this guy's saying, because, that's what I would say. If I were a sociologist and so on, I would say, hey, there are certain things about Christianity, and I look at it. So if you're talking about charitable contributions, I can say, yeah, Christianity's good at that. But over here on this thing I don't like, I would say that Christianity's bad. So I get that. But I don't see how any of that's going to be an obstacle for Mike's opening statement. So anyway.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! All right. Great job, Mike. Good job. Good boy. Good boy.
Depends
That's a
on
different
what
debate.
kind of Christianity we're talking about. The same is true for secularity or secularism. There's all different versions. There's the horrible Stalinist version.
Secularism, more like succularism, because it sucks. No, just kidding. But it looks like he's going to say the same thing. Hey, you could have negative forms of.
And then there's the inspiring, versions of people like Du Bois and Nelson Mandela. So it all, or, what kind of secularism? Is it the secularism of India? Is it the secularism of French laïcité? Is it the secularism of the Nordic region, which is also very Christian in culture? So that said, here we go. This is why I think secularism is better for humanity. And I'll just start by saying my hunch is that Michael would not like to live in a world that was predominantly Muslim or Islamic. My hunch is he would probably not want to live in a world that is predominantly Jewish or full of Jews or full of Hindus or full of Buddhists. I'm an atheist Jew. The minute you say that you want a society that is predominantly Christian, I get the heebie-jeebies. Sorry.
This is already weird. AP, Israel is predominantly Jewish. Would you be fine living there?
I would love to live there.
So I'd be totally fine living there as well. There are certain areas of India where it's not safe for Christians. There are certain areas where Christians get persecuted and so on. I've heard from Christians in India and other areas who say, I've never in my entire life experienced a problem with Hindus. And so guess what? I'd be happy to, I prefer living here because this is America's what I'm used to and so on. But the idea that I wouldn't want to live there because people have different beliefs and so on, that doesn't seem, I don't know where this guy's getting this from.
I probably wouldn't want to live in a Hindu society.
Yeah, because you're racist.
I always have to add a little bit of making things problematic for your channel.
Yeah, I know.
Not my thing, man. I'm not Christian, and I don't want to be dominated by Christian beliefs.
You will be dominated.
And there's some Christian values that I appreciate, and there's some Christian values that I
You won't be dominated, but you will be humiliated.
abhor, and I don't want to be beholden to those. That's why secular is better, because we live in, it's 2024, we are a diverse planet. We are not all one religion. And religion is a perennial divider of humanity. It increases tribalism. It increases in-group, out-group thinking. It increases us versus...
Okay.
Seriously, what group has more in-group, out-group thinking than the new atheists? Everyone else out of our group is a stupid idiot moron. We're the super genius scientists of the universe.
them orientations, and it has been a source of suffering for a long time. And yes, you can point to good things Christianity has done. You can also look at the history of Europe, which was a history of bloody warfare, century after century after century. Protestants and Catholics killing each other, both Protestants and Catholics killing minority sects and heretics, both Protestants and Catholics killing Jews. Like, it's been bloody. And that's why the framers of the U.S. Constitution said in the first sentence of the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Brilliant. Brilliant. So secularism is not about denying people their ability to be religious. You can still be Christian in a secular world. You just can't dominate everybody else with your Christianity. Separation of church and state.
I have to point out, there's nothing within Christianity that says you're supposed to dominate everyone else in a society. The Apostle Paul said, "Who am I to judge those outside the church? Let God judge those outside the church." The harshest punishment in the New Testament to be carried out by Christians was excommunication. The worst case scenario, there's the door of the church. If you do not like following the rules of the church, you don't have to. There's the door. Go. Bye. Bye. That's it. So think about the question. The topic of the debate is not which is better to dominate and control society. The question is what's better for humanity. Somehow this is becoming a which would you rather be dominated and controlled by?
Serves a diverse planet. We are a diverse people. We are multiple faiths. We are many faiths. Hell, I went to a Buddhist monastery this Sunday with my wife and chanted. That's the dream. Many religions allowed to flourish, but no one single religion is the dominant religion that controls everybody else's lives. Number 2, evidence-based decision-making. We're on a planet. I don't know why we're here. I don't know how we got here, but I know that we have to address hunger, homelessness, crime, racism, sexism, homophobia, hatred, the climate crisis. The climate crisis will not be solved by prayers to a magical being. You may think it's true. It's not.
You got it? Christians think that all you have to do is pray to help fix the climate. You know what, AP? I see people who think there's no problem with the climate or anything like. I'm a person who think no, we are messing up this world. We're doing various things to mess up this world. This is another example of the people who are concerned about the environment and the planet. I think you would have a better, stronger, more motivating movement if you actually utilized people's beliefs and said, hey, wait a minute, we're God's representative. We are created in the image of God, and we are the stewards over this planet. Therefore, we need to do so responsibly. And so we need to make sure that we do our utmost to protect the environment from any harm that we might be doing to it. I think you'd have much more success in taking care of the environment using that than getting Greta Thunberg to go, how dare you? And AOC to ramble and spout complete nonsense. Who would this guy favor? I guarantee he would favor Greta Thunberg. And that's another example of why secularism is stupid.
There's no evidence that prayers to a magical invisible being have ever helped humanity, other than the personal comfort it might give the person as their mom is dying of cancer or as their train is headed towards Auschwitz. Prayers certainly can help people calm and soothe themselves, but they don't make for change in society. Evidence-based reasoning is all we have to solve illness, to improve communication, to fight the climate crisis, to advance human rights, and to alleviate suffering. Scientific authority over biblical authority. I'm not saying science has all the answers. I'm not saying scientists haven't done horrible things in the past, but we can only show that science was wrong through better science. We can only show that science did horrible things in the past through the scientific method to disprove the false claims of past scientists.
When you're talking about science doing horrible things, you're normally not talking about the errors of scientific theories, right? You're talking about people using science to do something really, really bad. But that would be an ethical concern. And no, you do not correct that through scientific research. You do not, if someone uses science to do something, to commit some horrible atrocity, to kill tons of people or something like that, then you do not correct that by more scientific investigation. That doesn't give, and I have any philosopher who's looking at this guy would say he has no clue what he's talking about. It's the is-ought fallacy, right? Like the idea that you're looking around at the natural world and you're deriving a moral imperative. This is what you ought to do. This is your moral obligation. Is complete nonsense. You need some sort of ethical claim. So sorry, but science is not telling you that science did something evil in the past or that a scientist did something evil. You need a philosophical or religious claim for that.
This guy makes me want to die. Like,
The science.
People were saying that it's painful. I'm starting to see it's pain. This is his opening. I mean, you can imagine what his rebuttals are going to be like. This is his prepared opening.
this is a thing where you see a very clear contrast in how IP takes that matter very seriously, and the other guy just comes in and barges in basically without any. It looks like he didn't even listen to what IP said. It looks like he didn't listen to anything he said. He goes into a completely different and completely dumb direction, into a very stereotypical anti-theistic direction, into so far he hasn't said anything that is...
It's meme level. What he's saying is like meme level.
Yeah, yes, it is basically meme level. It is basically
your prayers aren't going to fix the world. Your prayers aren't going to do it.
Religion. I don't want religion, and we have problems and all that, and you can keep praying to your sky daddy.
That's basically what he should have been saying. That's basically what it sounds like. And what a ridiculous man. What a ridiculous man. I'm cringing here while I'm sitting here. And
what's funny is it's in the book of James. If you see a man who is hungry and needs clothes and you say, go, be warmed and well fed, and you don't actually help him, what have you done? It's saying that someone should be helped, or just saying it, blessing someone to be helped, but not actually helping someone when you can, is condemned in Scripture. And he's saying, nope, that's what religious people do. They're just going to sit around going, oh, Lord, fix all the problems in the world. Just fix them, Lord. Whereas we, the secularists, we go out and make the great changes. That's why in all these different areas where we can actually test our impact on the world, we do way worse than religious people.
You know what I suspected? I kind of in my mind, as soon as this guy started speaking, I immediately began to wonder if this guy is one of these anti-Zionist, or let us just give the other side whatever they want kind of people. So I quickly looked a few things up, and I'm reading an article from him while I'm also listening to this, and it's basically about his perspective on the war, and it's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It's like the guy is basically saying is basically pointing out that he keeps using like inflammatory language about anything that Israel did, and is like when Israel withdrew, stopped occupying Gaza, and the Palestinians there then resorted to violence. He points that out. However, his conclusion only a few paragraphs later is that Israel should find a solution with Hamas and should agree to a ceasefire solution, and should also arrange a complete retreat from Gaza and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state in both the West Bank and Gaza, and so on. This guy is just, man, whatever people like this touch, they make it completely stupid, destructive, suicidal, idiotic. What an annoying character, man.
When you said, hey, you're going to go check out what he says on other issues, I thought you were going to say, and his article is titled, How to Stop the Genocide in Gaza. Hey, your camera cut out. You might want to jump out and jump back in.
Inshallah.
Or do a GoFundMe for a new computer to fix this ongoing and unforgivable problem.
Ooh. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll take these couple super chats while we wait for AP. What's funny is I don't think AP's ever just going to do the basic work of setting up a GoFundMe so we can all chip in to get him a more recent computer that actually functions. Someone's going to have to do it for him at some point. In this super chat, I'm going to be talking about the stream and how it makes people feel. I won't go on tangents. Okay, now I begin with I feel that. That is correct. Why is Phil speaking like he's talking to a kindergartner? Well, he's a professor. And the average maturity level of an average U.S. college student is basically the level of a kindergartner. And then so they got to stick with that. So you have to talk to college students now like kindergartners. Otherwise, they throw tantrums. Phil's rebuttal, nuh-uh, it's a new century, man. Yeah, religion has been harmful. Secularism has fixed everything, and it will continue to do so in the future. Yeah, answer IP's point. I know he said he's not going to answer the points right now. He's going to focus on his opening. That's fine. But let's listen to some more.
Method cannot explain why we're here, the mysteries of the human heart, why it's not okay to eat my dog, or it is okay to eat my dog, and depending on the circumstances. But it's the only way, the best way we have to make decisions about how to alleviate suffering. Evidence, reason, science. These need to be the predominant values, and they are not the predominant values of Christianity or any religious faith. Next, democracy. You won't find it in the Old Testament. You won't find it in the New Testament. You won't find it in the Quran. You won't find it in the Upanishads. You won't find it in the Adi Granth Sahib. You won't find it in the Torah, the Talmud. Democracy is a human invention. It is not perfect, as Churchill said, but it's the best of bad. It's the best we've got, and it's hand in hand with secularism. Secularism is about accepting some existential mystery. We will never know the ultimate, we may never know the ultimate deep questions, why are we here, how ought we to live? And religion often gets hung up on those deep existential questions at the expense of the immediate concerns in the here and now. Charlotte Perkins Gilman made this point very strongly. She said that Christianity, Islam, these are death-obsessed religions that the ultimate primary concern is what's going to happen to you after you die. Secularism is a this-worldly orientation where the ultimate concern is what can we do for the baby that was just born?
Quick question for everyone who's watching, because I hear these things all the time. Christianity, Islam, they're just focused on the next world, so they don't really care. Hang on. Let me get AP back on. Oh. Hey, AP, you just missed out. I don't know if you heard it, but he was saying that Christianity is focused on the afterlife and therefore cares about this world less, whereas secularism focuses on this world. Christianity focuses on what happens to the baby after death, whereas secularism says, how can we help this baby right now? And what's the overarching problem with everything he's saying, which is something I hear from atheists all the time? Inspiring philosophy just pointed out the real world implications. So if you guys are focusing on just this life and Christians just focus on the afterlife, why are Christians way more likely to give to charity than you? Even Christians are even more likely to give to secular charities than secular people are. If you are the guys who are just focused on this world and Christians just think about the afterlife, why are they better at helping people in this world? Why?
Because the guy is stupid.
That's the problem. See, this is always my problem. He's sitting there, we're all about evidence. We're about the evidence, and we have to go where the evidence points. Okay, the evidence just said everything you said was complete nonsense, and you're completely wrong, and you live in a fantasy world.
Oh, dare
so
you?
Why are you going against the evidence? The evidence says one thing. You believe the opposite of the evidence. You're the guys who are helping most in the world, and the Christians, they're just thinking, who cares as long as we make sure he gets to heaven.
How dare you say it's nonsense? How about you pray to Sky Daddy?
Yes, and you guys just sit around going, Sky Daddy, where's our Sky Daddy will save us, and you don't do anything in the world. That's what I've discovered.
Daddy.
That's what I discovered in sociology. I said it in my book. I say it to my students. Keep in mind we're messing with this guy, but he seems like a nice guy. He's just he sounds like he's arguing from 15 years ago. What's that?
I don't care about nice. Sociology has a very bad reputation, with which I don't necessarily agree. I think it's quite a respectable field in many ways, but this guy's not making a very good case.
Yeah, sociology. Let's face it, it's a bit effeminate. But let's go.
And then we need to rely on ourselves. Only we can solve our problems. We are flawed. We are jealous, we are violent, we are petty, we are tribalistic. We have inherited all these traits through hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and millions of years of evolution as a primate species, and yet we are the only possible source of solving the world's problems, because we also evolved the ability to have empathy, compassion, to care about others, to understand justice and to be abhorred when it's by injustice. We abhor violence, we abhor hatred, even though we sometimes succumb to it. That's the reality. We have capabilities for good and bad. Christianity teaches that we are intrinsically evil, that ultimately we are evil, and we need a magical, and I guess like a magical invisible deity made himself into a human.
Say Sky Daddy. Gosh, why can't you just say it? Dawkins said it. You're supposed to go, Sky Daddy, Sky Daddy. I can't take this guy seriously anymore. He didn't say Sky Daddy.
Who then had himself killed through some preordained fantasy, prophecy, and because this God...
By the way, think about how insane what he just said is. So he's saying because of hundreds of thousands of years of us developing, or whatever he said, we've developed the ability to have empathy. Yeah, and you've developed the ability to lack empathy or to not include other groups as groups that you would show empathy towards. How do you derive an actual moral obligation from that? How do you say, well, this is how our species developed, therefore we have a moral obligation to seek the good of other people and so on? Where are you getting that from? There are biological organisms that reproduce through violent graping, right? Do you say it's right because that's how they evolved? Do you say it's morally good because it? No, we're back with Muslim AP who's going to destroy and humiliate this guy. Yeah, AP. So glad to have you back for however long your computer will keep up with us. But he was saying how thanks to evolution, we developed the ability to show empathy, and this is why we need to make the world a better place and so on. He's saying, but Christianity and its idea of, God entering creation and being a sacrifice and so on, this all has, and he doesn't even realize, that's all connected to God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Like he's saying, hey, he went on a tirade about how human beings are just these ugly, evil, disgusting things according to Christianity and so on. And then he attacks it for saying that we needed a sacrifice and so on. What was the message of that? God loved us so much. We were so important to God that he's willing to do this. What's that mean? It means that human beings, that people are very, very, very important. Where are you getting from your secular idea, apart from just saying it, that human beings are these extremely important things, that individual human beings are so important, so important? Where are you getting that idea?
Obviously from Human Lives Matter.
Yeah, I said it. I found it in my sociological research.
Human lives matter.
We don't need a Sky Daddy to tell us that human lives matter.
You go ahead and pray to your Sky Daddy. I value humans.
Yeah, you go ahead and pray to your Sky Daddy to find out that human beings are important, whereas I'll just say it.
Look, I'm saying it right now. Human lives matter.
Powerful.
Then was also human, came from a virgin vagina, and then killed himself. That blood somehow allows us to get out of hell and go to heaven. It is all insane. There's no evidence for it. It's just the crazy imaginings of people thousands of years ago. That's no basis for solving our problems in the here and now. Christianity is obsessed with what happens after you die. Secularism is obsessed with how can we make the world a better place in the here and now.
And how do we make the world a better place? We have no babies and we pave the way for Islam and let Islam take us over. Hey, IP's entire opening statement destroyed everything this guy's saying right now, and he's saying it anyway. No shame. I think that's what he meant in his opening. Like, well, I'm not going to rebut now. I'm just going to go ahead and give my opening statement. I think that was, okay, everything you said in your opening statement just destroyed me, but I don't want to start rebutting it now, so I'll just say what I prepared to say.
He just said virgin vagina. Like, how in the world was that? Was that in any way? It wasn't even. It's not even smart. It's not even a smart thing.
Yeah, it's
to
not
say.
even witty. Come up with something witty or intelligent.
It's not witty. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. It's unnecessarily vulgar. It's so cringeworthy, man.
It's Dawa level cringe. Let's just say that.
This is all there is, folks. There's no afterlife. There's no heaven. There's no hell. This is it. And that is a much more sober orientation. It's not the most comforting. Hell, if you're suffering right now, if you're in a poor society and it's a corrupt society and there's violence and there's terror, yeah, it's nicer to think you're going to go to heaven afterwards. I get that. And I would never go up to somebody who is in those circumstances and say, well, guess what? This is all there is. Ha ha ha. Make the best of it. But I have to step back as a rational person and say, those societies that have made the most advances in alleviating suffering did it not through faith in a self-sacrificing Messiah who is the offspring of a man whose rib made a woman. No. Those societies today that have alleviated the suffering the most did so through using their reason, evidence-based decision-making, the scientific method with all its flaws. And yes, religion can help. It can have many good benefits, singing songs and having life cycle rituals, increasing charitable works and charitable giving. You bet. So I don't see it as black and white, which is why in secularism, you can still have your Christianity. You can still gather as Christians. You can still pray to your God and beg not to be sent to.
We'll just make fun of you the entire time. You know what's interesting, AP? It's like, okay, this guy lives in a society made up of mostly Christians of one variety or another. And he's saying that, again, the topic is Christianity or secularism, which is better for humanity, which is better for humanity. Not talking about which one needs to completely wipe out and control and subjugate the other or anything else. He lives in a society that is, he lives in a society where he's mostly made up of Christians. What's his objection? Like, how are Christians controlling you and crushing you and subjugating you and so on? Like, how's that happening? How is Christianity negatively affecting you? At the end of the day, what are you going to say? Like, Christians tell me I'm going to go to hell or something like that if I don't believe in Jesus? Okay, so Christians are saying your position is wrong. Atheists say the same thing to Christians. So how are you saying that your society is what? I don't get it. He's saying that Christians can live in a secular society. Okay, atheists can live in a Christian society. It happens. It's in every Christian society. There are Muslims in Christian society. What are you? Other groups can live in a Christian society. So how are you I don't know. It seems so stupid to me, and I'm wondering how are these his prepared remarks? In a secular society, you would be allowed to be Christian. See how much better secular societies are? Okay, in a Christian society, you'd be allowed to live. And who's stopping you? What's the worst thing a Christian will do to you? Tell you you're wrong. Okay, that's exactly what an atheist would do to a Christian. You'd say you're wrong. So how is this a deciding factor in this debate?
Hell, and Muslims can worship, and Hindus can worship, and Jews can worship, and we have a diverse situation where, as the First Amendment says, there should be no prohibiting the free exercise of religion. But the notion that we should choose one particular religion as the basis for society,
who said that?
Nobody said that.
Who said that? Is that
that's
what Mike
not
said?
the topic. Nobody suggested such a thing. That's not what this is about.
He acts like he's arguing with a Christian nationalist who says that Christianity needs to dominate the entire world and subjugate the entire world. And I prefer not having that.
On the contrary, Mike Jones just spent some of his time there actually arguing that is not at all the point, and that certain people who radically suggest such a thing happen to be quite non-observant in their religiosity, in their Christian religiosity, and so on. This guy just didn't listen. He's arguing against the straw man.
Actually, I wanted to. He quoted Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I wanted to get down to this. Let me see where I stop.
I just want to point out one thing. It's like, the guy just spent so much of his time insulting, religion, insulting Christian beliefs, Jewish beliefs, insulting the Bible, and so on, insulting the Christian belief in Jesus specifically, and so on. Completely out of nowhere. Completely out of nowhere. This is, how do you think this makes for a fruitful conversation?
Yeah, and me, I'm fine with that, but like, at least don't have a stupid argument. What good argument has everything he said is meme level. In other words, if I were to go to AI and I were to say, "Hey AI, base an opening statement on why secularism is better than Christianity for humanity, but base all the arguments on memes from Twitter," I would expect this, although I would expect something somewhat stronger. And this is what he's given. I mean, IP sitting there, source after source after source, and showing all the different ways that Christianity is superior to secularism on its overall impact on the world and on societies. And this guy says the opposite without citing anything except for this chick's name. I just wanted to go through the super chats and we got down to the criticisms of his source from a second ago. Was that while you're out when he quoted that woman?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Maybe.
Phil's rebuttal. No, it's a New Century Man. Checked out that one already. Secularists. The future is now, old man. That's true. You see, Allah has destroyed AP's camera. This is the proof. Yeah, AP. You have to think about how Muslims will look at this when your camera is always having problems. They're going to look at that and say, Allah has cursed you. So you have to refute them by getting better equipment. This is Charlotte Perkins Gilman died of suicide, and he uses her as an example of Christianity and, of course, Islam as death obsessed. So she's the one who said that Christianity and Islam are death obsessed, whereas secularism is life obsessed, and she died of suicide. That would be interesting. There's another comment about here coming up. The only morale guiding that evolution has is survival of the fittest. Yeah, and even that's not a moral. That's not a moral. There is no this ought to happen. It's just this is something that does happen. Knew this would be arguing straw manning on both sides. When did IP straw man the other side?
Straw manning? IP?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't catch IP straw manning anything. You could disagree with him, or say that there's other evidence that he's not considering or hasn't included. I didn't catch any straw manning. So El Rito, tell us where IP actually straw manned.
IP too.
IP freely. Good Up says, new atheists don't have a sky daddy, but they do love their big brother. That's their religion. Yeah, they do love their big brother. Big brother. Phil is not nice. Notice how he judges everything and everyone loudly. He opened with a whole lot of judgmental statements and then went on from there. Okay, I take it back, man. I said he was nice based on his little introductory remarks there where he's saying, hey, things can be good. Religion can be good. Religion can be bad. It's not black and white, blah, blah, blah. I judged him based on that. Yes, he's shown that he's not nice since then. Guess what? I don't care if you're nice. I care about whether you have a good argument. And his arguments suck, like beyond suck.
You know what I would suggest?
Hey, look, Virgin Vajayjay, you see how edgy I am? Oh, I'm not your average sociologist. I'm edgy. I'm using cool words. Look at that. Hey, everyone, I said virgin vagina. You weren't ready for that. Watch the Christian flip out. Watch the Christian say he's going to kill me for saying that.
This guy just sounds like a regular American leftist atheist, college campus person. But the bad thing is that this guy is supposed to be a professor.
Yeah, this guy actually teaches the next generation. Then people wonder why the students in these universities are a bunch of freaking morons. Look how edgy I am, Phil. I said your students are freaking morons. Wow. Here we go. Watch research. Research Charlotte Perkins Gilman and what she thinks about Jews and blacks and socialism, and he uses her as a reference against Christianity.
Charlotte Perkins Gilman.
You going to check that out? These two last super chats here. IP. Lord, let this suffering pass if it is your will. This is so painful to watch. So IP's over there praying. This atheist is so full of hate that he becomes irrational, a bit like the secularist Stalin or secularist Hitler.
You know what I would suggest, actually?
What?
That we don't even bother listening to the rest of this. It's quite clear. IP made a very good opening, and he finished it. And the other guy has nothing to say. He's such an idiot.
I just want to finish his opening statement just in case there's some brilliant point, but it's only like another 3 minutes or so. Yeah, we'll finish his opening statement. Guys, you can watch the rebuttals on your own. I'm guessing, I'm predicting Mike completely obliterated everything he was saying because he's not... Again, his claims and his arguments are meme level stuff. But all right, let's let him wrap up here.
How terrifying, how anti-democratic, how intolerant, and the results will not be pretty, as we've already seen. We've seen what happens when Christianity is the dominant, enforced situation. It's not. Yeah, maybe it's good for some people. It's not as good as democracy.
So saying, if Christianity is dominant and enforced on people, well, guess what? That's not taught. You're not taught. Christians aren't taught that you dominate. I mean, individual Christians could be taught by some weird group or something like that. It's not an ideal in society. So you could say, what happens when atheism is imposed? Would that be good? Or what happens if this guy's views, whatever his views are, were actually imposed on the world? I wouldn't like that because then I'd have to talk like an idiot.
That's true.
So no one is talking about imposing Christianity on the world. That would be a different kind of a debate. If you wanted to debate which would be better to be forcefully imposed on the rest of the world, Christianity or secularism, then you could have that debate. But just saying what's better for humanity?
And so that's my main argument. I think secularism allows for Christians can believe what they want, worship how they want, raise their kids how they want. It's all good. Secularism allows that, and it allows their neighbors to be Mormon and their neighbors to be Hindu and their neighbors to be Buddhist. But the big decisions, like how are we going to alleviate suffering, that in a secular society, in a secular culture, is going to be done by rational inquiry, evidence-based decision-making, the scientific method when appropriate, not through prayers and supplications to some invisible magic deity who already knows what's going to happen anyway, and is sort of watching his little creations, and whether he's making a list, he's making it twice, he's going to find out if it's naughty or nice.
It's making a list, checking it twice. You can't even get your stupid mockery right, you giant clown.
Look at IP's face. He's so disappointed. He
thought he was about to get a serious argument, and he's like, IP's sitting there. How did I actually prepare for this? How did I spend a week preparing for this debate? And this is what I'm getting. I did not need to prepare for this. Guys, just to recap, in case you missed the beginning, this guy's saying, secularism, we focus on how to... IP's entire opening statement was religion tends to do way better at things in this world that benefit people than secularism does, than atheism does, and so on. And this guy just ignored all the actual evidence, which means everything he's saying is based on his faith in memes that he's seen. Because the evidence does not support him, and he has not provided the slightest... Guys, think. His entire opening statement, we're almost through it. It looks like he's closing out right now. His entire opening statement, when did he offer the slightest bit of evidence for anything he's saying? I do not recall. I recall IP offering tons of evidence for everything he was saying. Source after source after source, study after study after study for everything he was saying. And this guy is basically giving us meme level argumentation, which again, I didn't know who he was, but when they introduced him and, hey, he's a sociologist, he's a professor of sociology, he's written all these books. Oh, okay, he must have done tons of research and have interesting arguments. Good. He may present a good challenge to IP, or he may present the best case possible. And what a disaster. Dude, Phil Zuckerman, you have destroyed my confidence in sociology. What's that, AP? Sociology is not a real science, ladies and gentlemen. Get rid of it. The real's not a real physics, chemistry, biology, sociology. It'll turn you into this guy.
I'm looking at I'm looking at things that she said about different people.
Is she hot?
And no, she lived a long time ago. You frequently would use racial slurs to describe Jews and their characteristics. Very funny. Frequently and lengthily talked about her disgust of black people and how having black people among us and interbreeding with them lowers the quality of our people, and suggested eugenics for that. Said that while Jewish people happen to have the brains and the imagination and knowledge compared to the black people, they are still separate from us, Anglo-Saxons and so on. Wow, man, this is a very, very funny source to use. Actually.
Dude,
Wow,
this is actually serious. I mean, this is. Let me see if I can go back and find to where he mentioned her, because this is all connected. This is all connected to what he was saying. Who was that? Okay, here we go. Let's see.
On those deep existential questions at the expense of the immediate concerns in the here and now. Charlotte Perkins Gilman made this point very strongly. She said that Christianity, Islam, these are death-obsessed religions that the ultimate primary concern is what's going to happen to you after you die. Secularism is a this-worldly orientation where the ultimate concern is what can we do for the baby that was just born.
Guys, did you catch that? No, this is all connected in my mind, because he's sitting there saying, and science will correct the bad things that science has done. I'm thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense. And science doesn't tell you good or bad. That's not what it does. And then he quotes her. But think about this. He's saying that we need to focus on solving problems in the real world and not just focusing on the afterlife. Well, IP showed that Christianity would be massively better than alternatives in that realm, helping people, things like that. If this guy is saying that we need to focus on fixing this world, and he quotes her, he quotes that woman, and that woman is, we need to get rid of all the other races and establish our pure white race, or whatever the heck she's arguing. That's her idea of how you fix the world. And guess what? What is wrong? What is wrong from a scientific perspective? What is wrong from a scientific perspective in saying that we need to take the this is how eugenics is done. I don't know her particular views on eugenics and so on, but let's take the best and smartest and best physically fit people and stuff like that and get rid of other people. So get rid of other groups. How is that scientifically wrong? In other words, if you just said, hey, let's get rid of all disabled people in the world, how is that scientifically wrong? You could say it's morally wrong if you have a moral objection to that. You can't say it's wrong from a perspective of science. So if he's saying, hey, yeah, we need to figure out all of this based on evidence and science and so on, then he's appealing to someone who apparently believes in eugenics and so on. That kind of gives you an idea of what he means by being good for the world. He's not talking about giving to charity or something like that. He's talking about some master race type stuff. What the heck? AP just perked up. What the master race? Oh, now I like him.
It's funny. I'm reading this research, which is about her racism, and it says, while Hillman resented immigrants in general and commonly used racial slurs to describe Asians, Jews, and Italians, her greatest intolerance seemed to be directed at Black Americans. It's funny.
And this is my hero, and she's the one who can guide you into improving the world. Guys, his entire opening statement, this is better than Christianity. This is how we fix the world. And every single study shows that he is massively worse at it. The only possible justification, because you wonder what does he mean, like improving society? Nothing. Secularism is not improving society in like what ways? What are you even talking about? The only inclination, the only indication we get of what he could possibly mean is like eugenics and getting rid of other races. And so like, is that what he means? I hope that's not what he means. But it's the only indication. It's the only thing he could, because he can't mean in the ways that IP was talking about, because IP showed all the studies that Christianity is actually better at helping humanity in those ways. So he must mean either he's just completely detached from reality, or he means society needs to be made better in other ways. The real world needs to be improved in other ways. Well, the only indication he's given us is he quoted someone who believes in getting rid of black people and this your champion, secularists. Let's see how he wraps this up.
Naughty and nice, like this cosmic Santa Claus. I just think that's a horrible basis for any society. If it comforts people, great. If it causes them to give more charity, great. You know, Mormons are amazing at charity. Their religious beliefs are lacking any evidence. So I'm not going to become a Mormon just because their streets are safer than elsewhere, and because they give so much to charity and they help each other out. When someone's out of work, they are there giving them groceries, a place to live, paying their mortgage. I mean, that's no way to decide. You know, I feel like that's a problem to sort of look at these outcomes and say, well, let's do that. It's like, you know,
it's a problem to look at the outcomes. The debate is about the outcomes. Which is better for humanity? That is an outcome-based judgment. Again, that's not even true or false. You could take any two positions and say, which one is better for humanity? And say, oh, this one is better. He's saying, oh, but yeah, I'm not concerned about the outcomes. What else are you deciding is better for? How are you deciding which one is better for society if you're not talking about the outcomes? You're just talking about how things work in your mind? Like, here's how things work in my mind. Well, yeah, Christianity would just lead to people sitting around praying to their sky daddy. That wouldn't be good for the world. But secularism would have people going out and fixing all the problems in the world. So is that all you're doing? You're not focused on like the actual outcomes? Because guess what? If you are scientifically minded, Mr. Sociologist, you should be focused on the outcomes. And the fact that you're not means you probably don't like what the actual outcomes are, and you're trying to shift this subject to your own fantasies. Did you find some more stuff on this lady?
She wrote a whole thing called A Suggestion on the Negro Problem. And he is here.
White people are no longer allowed to use that word. I'm not sure whether a Turk is allowed to use that word, but since you guys are even more racist than other people, I would.
It says, this brings us again to our direct question. How can we best promote the civilization of the Negro? He is here. We can't get rid of him. It is all our fault. He does not suit us as he is. What can we do to improve him? At last, the suggestion, let each sovereign state carefully organize in every county and township an enlisted body of all Negroes below a certain grade of citizenship. Those above it, the decent, self-supporting, progressive ones, from no problem and call for nothing but congratulations.
There's some of the good ones. See, there's some good ones.
But the whole body of them who do not progress, who are not self-supporting, who are degenerating into an increasing percentage of social burdens or actual criminals, should be taken hold of by the state. This proposed organization is not enslavement, but enlistment. The new army should have its uniforms, its decorations. What the heck?
Take them all.
Wow.
The government takes control of them and makes them the army, so white people don't have to die. Is that the gist?
Yeah. This is not a dishonor, but an honorable employment, and so on. So basically, them, since they have no better use, just going to fight for us and dying would be good for them and good for us, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty messed up.
And so now, ladies and gentlemen, we know what atheists mean by improving the world. They're going to improve the world in the same way Nick Fuentes wants to improve the world.
I mean, to be honest, you could say that this person had some absolutely horrible views, while also having said some very, very good things.
Yeah, the question is just like, why would you quote this person? That means he probably studies this person, right? Like he's probably a fan of this person. Like, of all the people you could quote, because I'm like you, AP. We were just talking about this. I can sit there and say, wow, Sam Harris said something great. Doesn't mean I agree with everything Sam Harris. I can think that Sam Harris says things that are completely stupid and dopey. But here he said something that's completely correct. So he could be agreeing, but it would be weird. Like, I'm going to quote Mengele for this nice thing he said. What?
By the way, to your question, she was not hot. But yeah, you could argue that I think she is considered a kind of a good example of a feminist advocate and all that for social reform. And
And we-
eugenicists.
Yeah, but I mean, the quote he gave, and she says, we want to help the baby as soon as it's born. Yeah, what if the baby's black? Then you want to put him in the army for the state, because that's the most he can do for society, is being used by the state as a cannon fodder. Thanks,
I
lady.
just read so much more really bad stuff that she said, but I don't want to say it all.
Good.
Get the picture.
All right, I think he's done here. Let's see.
Japan has the lowest violent crime rates in the world. Should we all become Shinto and Buddhist? Should we all speak Japanese? Like, these correlations and causations are very tricky.
No one's arguing that. Look what he just said. Should we all adopt this? Not the topic of the debate, but you could ask, is, let's say, Shintoism and so on, they have different beliefs and stuff, but is that better than, let's say, Sharia? You can ask that question and you can say that this one is better for humanity than the other. Literally no one except for you, dude, is talking about the entire world being subjugated to an ideology. But since given who you're a fan of, it makes sense that that's the terms you think in.
And at the end of the day, Christianity asks me to believe something without evidence, and that's a house of cards. It asks, and not just Christianity, most religions. Now, again, if you're talking the sort of watered down, humane Christianity of some of my Quaker friends, or, all right, you might have a stronger case, but
You think Quakers have watered down Christianity? They're freaking diehard. What are you talking about? Guys, think, based on what he just said, because Quakers are pacifists, right? So he's thinking real Christians are the Christians who would go around subjugating you, and not the Quakers who just kind of mind their own business and stick, so he's already thinking that he can't avoid the terms of, if you're taking Christianity seriously, then you are subjugating the world and violently oppressing everyone else, and I don't want to live under that. In other words, he sounds like a complete dope.
I'm going by what I read in the Bible. And what I read in the Bible is evidenceless, baseless, often immoral, often corrupt, often dangerous and deranged. And to me, that's a very, very scary basis for a society. And when I lived in Scandinavia, which is a very Christian culture, nobody believed that stuff anymore. So if anything, you could make the case that like a post-Christian society might be ideal, one that had Christianity in the past for a while, but has grown up.
But by the way, those are the societies that the atheists like. They like societies where people in the society started abandoning belief in the religion, but they still retain the values. They're sort of running on the fumes of the religion. They still take the values because they haven't stopped. They haven't started attacking the values yet. Not realizing, guys, hey, atheists of the world, you can attack the values in the exact same way you attack, like, let's say, belief in God. In other words, belief in God. Where'd you get belief in God? There's no proof. There's no proof of that. Where'd you get it? Your parents told you. Society told you, but there's no proof. Okay, don't torture old ladies for fun. Where'd you get that idea?
From the Bible of secularism.
Where'd you get that? Just imagine. Where'd you get that idea? There's no. Where's the proof? Oh, there's no proof. You have no scientific proof that you shouldn't torture old ladies for fun. Where do you get the idea that you shouldn't do that? You heard it from your parents. Your parents just told you. Your society indoctrinated you into belief. The exact same criticisms that you.
Atheist Bible man.
The exact same criticisms that you toss at belief in God, you could toss at these moral values. There's no scientific proof for God. What scientific proof is there that you shouldn't murder people? What is it? So can you mock that in the same way? Ha ha, you just believe that by faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. So what's that mean? It means, hey, I like a society where they direct their mockery at God, but not on those values, even though you can eventually, and someone will, mock those values. And then you realize, I can't defend those values apart from God, which I've rejected. What are you doing? So how are you getting out of this? And not realizing, of course, what are those secular societies doing? The post-Christian societies doing? They're inviting in millions of Muslims because they don't know what else to do. And they have extremely low birth rates, and they're being replaced. Great job. You've just literally proven everything Mike Jones said about you. Everything.
This makes me want to be a Quaker.
Makes me want to go become a Quaker. That'd be a good one for you, AP. I think I think you'd like Quakerism. All right. Hopefully this guy's done because, I mean, his time's up. But...
No longer believes that, we're all sinners in need of salvation, and no longer believes that these ancient stories are actually true, but are rather just metaphors and allegories and containing some wisdom, but they're from human culture. So I guess I'll end there, because now I can't even remember all the things that you had said in your opening statement that I
didn't take
wanted
notes?
to either agree with. Oh, 1 minute.
Oh my goodness, he's got another minute.
What I can tell
Dude,
you
just
is,
shut up, dude. Just shut up.
I'll give up my 1 minute to charity.
Great. That's the first time a secular person has ever given anything to charity. Look at Mike already grinning. Why did I prepare for this? All right, guys. We do not need to.
What an imbecile!
Wow. Every meme and straw man you could possibly apply. And yeah, guys, his final takeaway was, just have the values, just have some Christian values that can be good, and drop the story, not realizing that God is what grounded and made those values true. God is what made your moral obligations actual moral obligations, and not just things that you kind of feel but have no reason for. These are all connected, and you throw out it's the same thing over and over again. We'll just destroy the foundations and expect the rest of the stuff that we like to just hover in space and to still work like that, not to come crashing to the ground. Welcome to secularist fantasy land, ladies and gentlemen. What's that?
This makes me want to die.
It's pretty bad.
Uh-oh.
Hang on.
I'm so glad we don't have to listen to this garbage anymore, man.
It's pretty bad, but I have all kinds of people. There are all kinds of comments talking about stuff he says later that's really, really stupid and bad. Who are you imitating? The sociologist or that woman he's quoting? That Charlotte Perkins.
The sociologist, the freaking sociologist that we were just forced to listen to.
That's what he sounds like?
Yeah.
People are saying that it got worse. They're saying that he actually got worse. Let's look at these comments real quick. Lord, let the suffering pass if it is your will. This is so painful to watch. That is true. This atheist is so full of... Oh, I already read that. I already read these two. Let's see. Enter the secular guy's arguments into Chat GPT and your responses, and ask it what this guy gets right and what you get right. More productive. Yeah, that is true. Solomon says he's lauding evidence-based reasoning while doing the exact opposite. That's my real objection to a lot of the dumbest features of the new atheism. They're saying one thing, this is our method, this is our method, this is our method. And in reality, they're just using low-level manipulation tactics of, our group is smart and everyone else is dumb. Be part of the smart group, not part of the dumb group. And people fall for it because people are easy to manipulate. Oh, no. It says, IP's first rebuttal is incredible. Please watch.
I bet it is.
Maybe we'll watch a minute or two of it. I don't know. I bet it. We'll watch a minute. We'll watch a little bit of IPs and I don't even know how long the rebuttals are. It might just be a couple minutes or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch a couple minutes of it. Are you going to watch the part where Phil dismisses the field of history and archaeology? Did he actually do that? Who cares about history? Who cares about archaeology? I care about the present, and I care about facts and evidence.
I don't want to dig in the dirt. I don't care.
If you think his woo-hoo is bad, you need to watch the very end of Phil's second rebuttal. Okay, we will scroll through to find the end of second rebuttal. I'm jotting this down.
Woohoo!
End of second rebuttal. Apparently, a bunch of people have actually watched this and so on, so they're more familiar with it than I. But people are saying it's pretty bad. Michael says, when the Ayatollah croaks, can we get AP to sing 99 Luftballons? What's a Luftballon? What's a Luftballon?
It's a song. 99 take Luftballons. It's a song. You should know that, man.
Oh, yeah, it's my favorite song. But you had a request when the Ayatollah dies. I've already nominated on Twitter. I already nominated Armin Navabi for new Ayatollah. Atheist. Reading the Bible makes you atheist and smarter. Also atheist. Now watch me nitpick anti-Christian quotes from a racist woman while I shout woohoo and vagina. Hashtag edgy. That's pretty much a good summary, right? Oh boy. You gotta love these guys.
I wonder if he goes to his students and tells them, "Oh, guys, guys, look how cool I am. I said virgin vagina."
Some falafel sandwich says, so he will be happy if we abandon the Torah? He should watch The Frisco Kid. Have you ever seen The Frisco Kid? I'm not familiar with that.
No.
Based Autistic says, long time no super chat. I'm getting frustrated with people who use AI for arguments, but they, high school, can't show their work. There are a lot of people who have answers, but no reason. Why do I even bother with apologetic stat? Because not everyone is a stupid moron, Based Autistic. You're looking for the people who aren't brainwashed, complete morons. And you're also trying to help people who, you know, it might take a while, but you can make a difference. It is funny, AP, that
It is.
it's Muslims who are using the AI for arguments. You see, this says this. And whereas you and other people are using it is just to make fun of their stupid approach, right? You just use it to say, okay, look, you're going to let AI decide what's true here? Let me show you how dumb this is. And then use it to destroy their position.
Well, I actually do think that societies should be reformed, and I think that the ideal government would be a government where AI is in charge.
Would do a lot better than a lot of governments, I have to say. Even Gay P could destroy that secular argument. Pronouns uh-oh.
Yes.
Said pronouns uh-oh. Atheists wanted to remove Christianity so bad, and now they have to worry about Islam. Good luck. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Hey everyone, look at the poll. Remember the poll? The poll when we started off is around 87, 88%, and now it's up to 90%. 90% saying which is better for humanity, Christianity or atheism. So the people have spoken, and the people are always super smart and always right about everything. Okay, let's go back. Let's just watch. We'll watch like first 2 minutes or so of Mike Jones, guys. And again, for those who haven't seen it and want to see the entire thing, link is in the description box.
What do we got now?
What do we got? I'm ready.
Now,
I'm excited.
We'll move on to the first rebuttal from you, Michael, and we will have 10 minutes this time.
We're not going to watch that 10 minutes. We're going to watch the first couple minutes.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate what you said. And I enjoy reading your books. I think you're a very good writer. A lot of times you read someone and they're hard to read or follow, but do a pretty good job. So to address a lot of what you said there, I want to start by restating my 3 points. Again, I want to say Christianity is just more optimal. So again, because we see more charity work, more pro-sociality, we see it holds back nationalism and authoritarianism in very important ways. And of course, it creates a sustainable population that can continue on and continue to grow. Secularism has very big issues with birth rates. You can't be good for humanity if you cannot last for more than a few generations. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem right there. You mentioned asking me what Christianity am I talking about? Well, I'm just talking about it.
Guys, yeah, again, very important point. So this guy just said, hey, I've lived in Scandinavia, post-Christian. They don't take Christianity very seriously, and yet they take the values seriously. So I think that's great. One, those values get challenged over time and they get thrown out. So it's not going to last. Two, those are the countries that are inviting Muslims in as fast as they can. In other words, it's not going to last. Three, they have their birth rates are so low that they will be replaced by something else unless it changes. In other words, it's exactly what Mike said. It can't last more than a few generations. So how is that good for the world? How is what Scandinavia did good for the world when there's no way it can last? And if you think it can last, explain it. Tell us how it can last. Explain some theory of how this will actually last. Are they going to listen to you and go, oh, we need to focus on this world, so let's have tons of babies, and then the people are going to obey it?
General. You could call it mere Christianity. You believe in Jesus, you believe in God, you believe that Jesus died for your sins. These are theological aspects that are irrelevant. It's just generally Christianity. Now, of course, you're right. There are different kinds of Christianity, but I mean, I think that's just irrelevant to the main point that we're getting at here, because there's different kinds of secularism, as you correctly stated. You mentioned I wouldn't want to live in a predominantly Muslim country. Absolutely, I wouldn't. I don't know about other religions like Sikh, or for example, Judaism. I think I'd be fine with those. Islam with the Sharia, I think, is problematic though. But you talked about Christianity having problems for like enforcing Christian values on people. Well, again, research shows Christianity is created separation of church and state. So Tom Holland says in his book Dominion, the separation of church from state was an upheaval manifest across the whole of Christendom. He says this in his book Dominion on page 235. Alan Ryan on his book On Augustine states that Augustine starts to develop this idea, and then it starts to flourish in the Protestant Reformation. You should read Article 28 of the Augsburg Confession. I bet you would really
may I
like
say
it.
something here? May I say something here very quickly?
As our resident agnostic of blue-haired, whatever you are.
As somebody who is clearly meant to appeal to the most enlightened, most powerful, most beautiful, most inclusive, most diverse, and most amazing and progressive and woke and leftist and stupid populations, let me just make one thing very clear for the secular people. It has been firmly established that all of the things that you enjoy in the West, in terms of, the essence of your political system, the essence of your moral values, the liberalism that you have, the values of the liberalism that you have are very much a result not of atheism and secularism, but of Christianity, of a Christian society, of a Christian foundation, Christian foundation. Lots of the things that you stand up for nowadays are based on Christian thinking.
Based.
Human rights is based on Christian thinking. Equality, which people seem to champion, is based on Christian thinking. It was established and promoted with the idea of Christian thinking and the equality of humans before God in mind. That's where it goes back to. It is Christian thinking. It is not an affront, an assault, a breaking down of Christianity that brought forth enlightenment and the secularism and the liberalism and everything that you have today. It is directly a result of Christian society and Christian thinking, which is why it happened in the West and not in the garbage that you may call the Arabian Peninsula, for example. Hope that answers the question.
I think AP could have just given the full rebuttal there to this guy. That was it. You already destroyed his entire position. But let's see what IP, even though we don't need what IP said because AP already.
Speaking of IP, I have to go pee quickly.
Go pee real quick. We'll listen to IP for a couple minutes.
Daniel Treisman's paper, The Cause of Corruption: A Cross-National Study, notes that Protestantism plays a role in monitoring and denouncing state officials, is associated with lower corruption, and helps establish a pronounced distinction between church and state. In the book Culture Matters, they say on page 120, Protestantism reduces corruption in part because of its association with individualistic, non-familistic relations. So I don't think we'd have to worry about this in a Christian society. You can be secular in a Christian society. You can be Muslim. We have the separation of church and state. It comes out of the Christian history. It comes out of Christian heritage. You mentioned Christianity increases tribalism. I'd like to see the research on that. If you want to talk about the 2010 meta-analysis on racism that you've cited a lot, I'd be more than happy to talk about that because I got a lot of questions about how you use that. You mentioned increases violence.
That's another example of, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's the same thing with Daniel Hakikachu. You got people who will use a study and they go around citing the study in support of them. And most people just take what they're saying at face value. Oh, this person, Daniel Hakikachu or Phil Zuckerman, they say this study supports what they're claiming. And then most people just take it for granted because, they trust people. And then you have IP comes along and he goes and reads all those studies and actually that's not saying what you claim it says and what you've been claiming for years that it says. And I would actually like to have a discussion with you about that study because it does not say what you say it says. glad he's on our side.
Violence. Well, I would argue against that. Davis Brown's study, The Influence of Religion on Interstate Armed Conflict, looked at Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. Islam was positively associated with more war and conflict. Buddhism was non-significant. Christianity was negatively associated with more interstate armed conflict. So it was even better than Buddhism in that regard.
Better than
also,
Buddhism.
Check
You
out
heard it here, folks.
William Cavanaugh's book, The Myth of Religious Violence. He just notes it's impossible to separate religious from political, economic aspects when it comes in this, and just to sort of blame religion on violence in the past is an oversimplification. You mentioned the climate crisis, and I agree that is an issue. But research shows, especially when it comes for right-leaning individuals, I would think you'd want them to be religious. So studies like political conservatism, religion, and the environmental consumption in the United States. In that study, they say we can assert that there is no evidence that in any of our measures that religiosity intensifies the negative political conservatism effect. We provide evidence that the strongest negative conservatism effects are found among those who are the least religious.
Dang. Among the least religious.
Another study, does religion promote pro-environmental behavior across cultural investigation? They said the results of this study show that religion induces pro-environmental behavior.
Religion leads to more pro-environment views. Interesting.
Individuals' willingness.
Guys, just remember, what evidence did Phil provide for anything he was saying? He just said a bunch of stuff. Again, meme level stuff. IP is actually providing the studies here. And every study that IP is citing actually refutes what this guy says. What's the problem? This guy acts like he's the one he's the one who favors the evidence in IP. He's just a religious guy who believes everything by faith and so on, by faith in his God and virgin birth and so on. You see, because guys, what's happening right here? This is what I see all day, every day. This is what I see all day, every day happening at like a meme level and video level and so on.
To contribute money and dampens individuals' protest against contributing for environmental protection. Similarly, religion has a positive effect on ecological donations and participation in the environmental demonstration. And they looked at over 200,000 individuals across 91 countries from between 1989 and 2014, and they had 120 regression specifications for that. So I think that's important. You mentioned that in secularism, scientific authority is over biblical authority. Well, you're in luck because, again, in Christian societies, it's very much responsible for the rise of modern science. I recommend Toby Huff's book here. Basically, what they argue, him and others like Edward Grant, note that because Christianity developed something known as the separation of church and state, it allowed for modern science to develop as its own institution. This is Edward Grant. You can check out his book, The Foundation of Modern Science. So I don't think you're going to get a problem here. In Christianity, we have this concept we talk about called the two books. The book of Scripture and the book of nature. They're supposed to work with each other, and nature helps us interpret Scripture. Scripture helps us guide us as we go through nature. Even if you go back to the 1600s, Bellarmine, one of Galileo's opponents, said, if you turn out to be right, we will just have to reinterpret Scripture. They weren't willing to just say, nope, Scripture no matter what. Bellarmine said, I will reinterpret Scripture in the 1616 injunction. So that wasn't an issue there as well. And we can go more into that if you want to. And again, missionary activity has been shown in numerous studies to alleviate suffering. People were motivated by the idea of the Great Commission to go around and spread the gospel. So the studies I cited did a whole video last year called How Christianity Changed the World, and I go over these studies. And missionaries went around, and in order to spread the...
Do you actually go to pee, or do you just go to change your garments because I can't even tell if you're the same guy. You keep wearing different stuff.
I went to pee, man.
AP.
IP, yeah.
IP is citing source after source after source, systematically destroying every single thing this guy has said. There aren't a lot of debates in history that have been just this one-sided. I mean, it's a complete massacre. We'll watch a few more seconds and then we'll see what the guy said at the end of his second rebuttal that supposedly, wow, this is...
gospel, they had to teach people to read so they could read the Bible. So they spread literacy and education. They built hospitals, orphanage. They generated economic progress, and these studies have shown this. You can check out research for example, like Robert Woodbury or others who've put forward studies on this stuff. You mentioned that we've seen what happens when Christianity is the dominant belief in society, and I'd like you to expand on that, because there's a lot more factors when it comes to the Middle Ages that we need to consider. So, for example, if you go back in time, Nathan Johnstone wrote a book
can't
called
go
The New
back in time.
Atheism. And on page 224, he says this. Now, Nathan Johnstone, by the way, is an atheist. He's not religious. He talks about Christian societies in the last millennium. He says this: between the end of the Roman Empire and the late 12th century, torture had fallen into disuse in Europe. Sam Harris might be surprised to learn that Christendom owed its reintroduction not to bloodthirsty clerics, but to scientific jurists concerned to free justice from the reliance on God's intervention and to champion human judicial competence. In both medieval Europe and modern-day America, then, societies that had abandoned torture contemplated its reintroduction as a rational necessity. But the medieval story, the one for which we know the ending, recounts the failure of rationalism to control its offspring. So this idea, if you're going to say that, when Christianity was dominant, we had all these horrible effects, I would argue that's one variable among many. How do we know it wasn't other variables? Johnstone argues it was actually the reintroduction of rationalism in its early formations before it developed into more, I would say, civilized forms.
In other words, you look at the darkest periods, and what's actually going on is they're still improving. They keep improving things over time. That's what they actually do. You know what, IP? You know what has struck me? You know what has struck me here? In philosophy, there's a contrast between empiricism and rationalism. It's not the kind of rationalism that IP is talking about here. Rationalism in the sense of, in philosophy, you have the idea. You have two broad approaches. One, you sit back and you figure out how things work in your head, right? I don't mean figure out what's going on in your head. I mean, you figure out the world based on what's in your head. Right? In other words, you sit back and think, okay, let me figure out how the world works. And you come up with things. And you have the empiricist approach, which is, if you want to know how the world works, you got to go out. You got to go out and start, studying things and so on. So you have those approaches. But this contrast between inspiring philosophy and Phil Zuckerman and the two camps they sort of represent, it's like that. It's like Phil is saying, here's how religion works in my mind. Okay, in my mind, if religion, if you adopt religion and your society is dominated by religion, how are things going to work? Well, people are going to impose everything, and they're just going to say, let's pray, and they're not going to fix anything. The whole world's going to fall apart. And then IP is saying, hey, let's look at the history of let's look at all of history, and let's look at the world, and let's check out the studies and see how things actually work. And IP bases his conclusions on actually studying the world and seeing how different ideas impact the world. And Phil is thinking, here's how I think religion would impact the world without actually going to the observable data. And what's amazing is Phil claims that he's the one who's got evidence on his side, even though he's given us zero. And he thinks IP just sits around going, but I believe in the virgin birth, so this is good. And it's absolutely not. In other words, Phil has no connection to evidence at all for anything he said. And everything IP has said, he has defended with evidence. This is just embarrassingly, terribly one-sided massacre. Not even, well, no, I don't want to say not worth going through. It is worth going through because the stuff that Phil is saying is just very common. So it's good to learn. Guys, I would encourage everyone to make clips of this. Especially learn some of the responses and be able to share that, make clips of it, quotes that IP is using, share those, important stuff. All right. So guys, if you want to,
I would say that you pretty much got that wrong on every single level, because obviously what is happening here is that it's that Dr. Phil is presenting facts.
He said Dr.
whereas,
Phil. Now,
whereas
what
Michael
do we have
Jones-
here?
Whereas Michael Jones is just praying to Sky Daddy and
Yeah.
presenting his feelings.
Yes. Phil is presenting powerful facts, whereas inspiring philosophy is just talking about his feelings in the virgin birth.
Yes. Phil is using science, reason, and evidence.
Let's see. Okay, so here's IP's second rebuttal. We are looking for, and IP's still bringing up source after source after source. Okay, here's Phil's second rebuttal. We're looking for the end of Phil's second rebuttal. Oh, now he's on Exodus. Now he's on Exodus. Hey, it's good to see him actually bringing up some sources, though.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, we're looking for the end of this. Okay. All right. We're looking for the end of his second rebuttal. This is it. I hope I'm in the right spot.
Scandinavia, because the people there have moved beyond such fairy tales and they've taken the best of Christianity and they've institutionalized it. So they have great health care, medical care, child care, elder care, and they don't want to see homeless people. Those are rooted in Christian values, but not Christian faith.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, that is it for the rebuttal.
That-
Now
look,
we
did
will
you
move
see
on
that?
to the
He rolled back in his chair.
cross-examination. So you will have 10 minutes
Oh
each.
shit, I thought we were done.
Oh, no.
Did you see how embarrassingly terrible that was, IP? Did you see it?
That was incredibly cringeworthy, and it makes me want to kill myself. However, what he said before that was actually was actually an interesting admission, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they took the best of Christianity, namely the values that Christianity taught, and it keeps those. And then it drops all the beliefs that made those values true. And see, why can't we all just do that? Because it won't last.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Saying, hey, and everyone said this. Chesterton said that they all said this. They said, what's going to happen when you abandon the Christian teachings is you're going to be left with these values and you're going to treat them as idols. And what's going to happen is you're going to fracture society because different groups are going to focus on different things because now they're disconnected. They were connected. They were all connected. You destroy the foundation and now they sort of hang out there. They're just sort of hovering in space on their own with no foundation. Yeah, you can live by them. You can still live. You can make tolerance an idol. Now tolerance becomes our idol. Tolerance, everything is tolerance, and we bow down to tolerance, and we'll sacrifice our daughters on the altar of tolerance. If grooming gangs are doing stuff to them, we will offer up our daughters to our great idol of tolerance. Yes, that will happen, and you can have those values for a while. And you can challenge them. And you can challenge them, and they will crumble, and your birth rates are dropped, and you're going to be subjugated, and you're bringing in as many Muslims as possible, and you can't stand against it because what are you saying? I like this value that I can't defend and which makes no sense, and I can't defend scientifically, and I've abandoned Christianity, which makes sense of it, and therefore that value is really going to stand up well against the Allahu Akbars of the world.
That was pretty
Fantasy
much
land.
the dumbest thing I've listened to in my entire life.
It's pretty terrible.
It just makes it much worse that he thought that a good conclusion to all of this would be to roll back and show the audience his bones.
Boom! What a
Look at the roach.
AP, is that what young people refer to as cringe? Am I using that right? That was cringe. That whole chair roll back was cringe.
That's what the wee lads call cringe.
And what's funny is he probably planned that. And he's like, I know what I'll do. And then at the end of my second rebuttal, I'll roll back in my chair and go, oh, boom, in your
That's
face.
what the wee lads call cringe. This is exactly what atheism does, you see. It makes you do
destroys
cringe
your
things.
ability to think.
Yep.
All right, we'll take these last couple super chats. Even gay people could destroy their secular. Oh, I already read that. Let's see. Let's see. Based Autistic says, D Wood, you need to edit so that people can upvote comments. What's that mean? What does it mean to edit so that people can upvote comments? Edit what?
I don't know what you're talking about. Ed, what?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't understand the system well enough to know that how me editing would allow people to upvote comments. I mean, I'm not doubting that is the case. I'm not familiar with that. I'm confused. Is this debate about what the world should be or what will make the world today a better place? Even for me, his arguments are pathetic. Yeah, IP presented actual arguments on what has made the world, what has a better impact on the world. The other guy argued on meme level. What are you surprised about, AP? Did you find something out?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think what he's referring to, what Based Autism was referring to, is normally on streams, including on my streams, you can like and comment on super chats.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to not be able to do this on your live stream.
Oh, that's what I mean. So he means like go into whatever the system is and like, because there's probably something that says allow that. Okay, I will do that. I will jot that down as a note.
You should figure that out. That's a very good
Allowing
thing.
people to fix, fix super. Okay, I'll write that down because I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure I can just look up a video on how to do that, or probably just go around through the settings and so on. Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Based Autistic, for pointing that out. I will fix that. Atheists can't last long. GoatHub says it. Atheists can't last long. Research proves it. You see that, everyone? GoatHub is confirming that atheists, their societies can't last long. Evidence proves it. Banana says secularism is one of the biggest reasons Christians don't read the Bible theologically anymore. You could say that the Christianity has become more secular and so on, and you see the impact of that. Society becoming better. Christianity is robust. It works better if done more and doesn't fall over if not done perfectly. Contrast with fragile ideas, secularism and socialism. That's true.
Secularism.
Just woke up. It's 6 a.m. Love from South Africa. Yes, we love South Africa, except when your government is condemning Israel for genocide.
We love South Africa. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think Dr. Phil would love South Africa, except maybe the white people. Watch the very beginning of Phil's first rebuttal, 41 minutes, the very beginning of IP's.
He probably likes South Africa because they are doing the whole bringing Israel to trial thing. Like,
finally, somebody's standing up and doing the right thing here. Woohoo!
Trex fan says, watch the very beginning of Phil's first rebuttal, 41 minutes, the very beginning of IP's second one, 51:30, and the end of Phil's second rebuttal around 102:55. You have those here. We're not going to do it here, ladies and gentlemen, because we've been going for a long time. I will check those out. As a matter of fact, I'll probably finish watching the debate because this is good stuff. One side is presenting very important information. So let's see. Emily says 102:20. I will check that out since it's good and because it's close to what Trex fan just said. He just said 102:55. So I will go to 102:20. As we're closing out, I'll go to 102:20 and I'll watch to 102:55 because two people recommended that. The Frisco Kid is a rabbi, Gene Wilder, who travels through the Wild West when he meets Harrison Ford. I hope you watch it given the chance. Actually, I had that back in the day. I never watched it. Frisco Kid. So Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder as a rabbi already sounds hilarious. And then Harrison Ford. I did not know Harrison Ford was in a movie like that. That would be worth watching. Gene Wilder was hilarious. You know who Gene Wilder was, AP? He was Willy Wonka. Yes. Played in a bunch of Richard Pryor movies. He's a hilarious dude. He's really, really funny. Him as a rabbi would be extremely hilarious.
Him as a rabbi.
All right. So what was the thing? 102:20.
We'll do 10 minutes each.
102:20. Oh, that's apparently IP talking. Wait, 102. All right, we'll start 102:20. Here we go.
Humanity, or the purpose of humanity.
Oh wait, no, because I chopped off the beginning, so that is not going to be correct. So I chopped off. They had the little thing like coming up. So if I chopped that off, then 102
to chop off the end, not the beginning.
Would actually be. Let me go back. Okay, I'll go. I don't know how long the intro was. Let's see.
Advanced in their thinking about human progress than the ancient Christians. But Michael's going to tell us that, the Bill of Rights comes right out of Jesus' mouth. It doesn't. And it doesn't come from Paul's pen. And so I'm going to say the things we enjoy, like the welfare state, created the places where there's the less suffering, the least homeless, the least poverty, is in societies that have moved beyond literal Christianity, biblical Christianity. They've taken the good from Christianity, the ethics, spirits of inquiry, mercy, no question about that. They didn't reject those, but they developed those with more secular understandings of the world and more secular values. And I think that's the best, and I think that's what we enjoy to this day. And to return to a place where almost everybody's Christian, I guess maybe you'll let a few Jews, live in the alleys, and maybe a few Muslims can have some tree houses or whatever. But a society where most people are Christian, what a nightmare! Not where I want to live. And certainly, I certainly wouldn't have spent 2 years in Scandinavia if the people there all were walking around believing that the blood of Jesus saved them from everlasting torment in hell, and it was the Jews that killed their beloved Christ. I live in Scandinavia because the people there have moved beyond such fairy tales, and they've taken the best of Christianity and they've institutionalized it. So they have great health care, medical care, child care, elder care, and they don't want to see homeless people. Those are rooted in Christian values, but not Christian faith.
Can I say something here? Can I say something?
No.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, that is it for the
Can I say something
rebuttals.
here?
Now we will
Can I
move
say
on to the
something here?
cross.
Yeah.
I want to say something very, 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 very. When somebody like this guy comes along here and uses the whole Jews narrative, right? The Jews narrative of like, and and maybe you can allow Jews to live here, and Jews killed Christ and so on. Keep in mind one thing, which is that this guy is speaking as an atheist who is pretty much opposed to anything that Israel stands for, and is pretty much condemning Israel for being Israel, and thinks that Gaza and thinks that the Palestinians should have much of the land and they should be a free country and so on. There are lots of people in Israel and from the rather religious Orthodox Jewish community that hear people like this and that just want to tell people like this to just shut up. Because people like this guy here, who have nothing Jewish about them, and who do not represent any Jewish interests or anything at all, use Jewishness to come here, for example, and insult Jewish beliefs and Christian beliefs, and only make things worse for those who take Jewishness seriously. So maybe I'm not in any position to say that, but really, these atheist, secular people who want to use Jews as the narrative to push something against Christianity really just need to shut up for the sake of those who actually care about Jewishness.
That's a good idea. Mrs. Apostate said, "Hey, Pine Creek is looking pretty good." Wait, that's not Pine Creek, is it? These guys aren't Pine Creek. What's she saying? What's she saying? That by contrast, Pine Creek looks good. I don't know what Pine Creek looks like. I can't think of it.
The guy looks like Pine Creek with older and less hair.
Okay, that's funny. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, again, if the link is in the description box, if you want to watch the rest of that, everyone's saying how painful this is to watch and so on, but this kind of needs to be said. I'm sure there are people who could give a better case, but what Phil is saying is pretty reflective of a lot of online internet argumentation about why secularism is superior to Christianity. No connection to reality. That needs to be shown to the world, because secularism in reality is doing what IP said. It's a destructive force. Keep in mind, I want to be clear. There are good elements to secularism. It needs to be connected to something. Or it ultimately degenerates, falls apart, and is replaced by something else. IP pointed that out. It can't sustain itself. And so you should view it like like detached secularism that has no basis for supporting its claims and so on. That is destructive to society. That is the sort of thing that paves the way for Islam. So that needs to be opposed, and good material here to oppose that. So learn that stuff and go out and crush and humiliate the Phil Zuckermans of the world. Any final thoughts, AP, before we close out?
Yeah, this is the second instance in just a few days, a few weeks, where somebody has come once again and completely tarnished the reputation and credibility and significance of academia in such a crushing and brutal way. What a disgusting display! I feel absolutely disgusted with this guy. It must be crazy to go and actually get. An education from this man and get grades from this man, when the man should just should go back to kindergarten and start all over, possibly in a Christian society or a Jewish society, something that
No, he likes Scandinavian society for like the next generation and a half.
I don't care about his credentials. I don't care about his achievements. How disgusting! I really died of cringing. I cringed so hard that I hurt my neck, and I hope I never have to hear this man speak again, because all I hear is
Sky Daddy, I'm praying to your imaginary God, Santa Claus.
please shut up, man. What a display. What a contrast between an actual a man who should be the doctor in the room, the respected scholar in the room, Michael Jones, and this clown here who calls himself a professor.
Yeah,
Man.
we have Aisha's goat saying blood sounds like Greta Thunberg when she was 6 years old. That's about right. Jack Ray says, imagine how bad it would be to be a student in one of his classes and be a Jew or a Christian. That's what sucks about being in a class with someone like this, is that like he's the one who grades your papers. He's the one who grades your papers. And so you can't, you're not always free to just tell him what a dope he is. Hey, look at this. Hey, we got one of the. Hey, we had one of the gropers. We had one of the gropers come in. Christians love Jews while the Jews attack Jesus. How stupid are you, Christians? Jews attack your God and Christians still love Jews. Wake up, you Christians. Hey, think about this. Jews attack your God. Christians still love them. What do you think, that Jesus told you to love everybody? Oh, what are you, stupid? Even though he said it, even though he said love your neighbor, love your enemies, and therefore you love everybody. How dare you love Jews? And and what are you talking? You love the Jews today when there were Jews 20 centuries ago.
Hey, look at this. Look at this.
Plotted against Jesus. You have to hate them, and you have to hate the Romans as well, because Romans crucified him. Hate all Romans. Ignore what Jesus says. Jesus said, love everybody. Stop that. Don't do that, you stupid Christians. Don't obey Jesus. What a dope.
I want to get back to this guy CC Unit in a second, but I just want to very quickly comment on something here. A respectable young man in the chat says, "Gee, AP, attack the argument, not the guy." What argument, man? Are you kidding?
What argument?
What argument is there to attack?
Yes, give us the argument. Tell us
argument, man?
Tell us the argument that we're supposed to respond to.
I wish there was an established argument to attack you. I wish there was an argument to deal with, and not just half an hour of it's better.
We believe in evidence, and they don't believe in evidence.
Imaginary Santa Claus, Sky
Vagina
Daddy.
of a virgin vagina. Look at me roll back in my chair.
Is that what you call an argument? Is that logic and reason? Is that evidence-based reasoning and all that? This is such cringe-worthy stupidity. It should not exist. But anyway, can you pull it up back, that CC?
CC, man, where'd it go? Okay. Nope, you're lucky I'm good.
This guy, CC guy, Christians love Jews while the Jews attack Jesus. Look, CC Unit, I just want to ask you one question.
But look, whoa. Before you go, I just want to point out, this is exactly what IP was talking about later, that these ideas are appealing among people who don't take it seriously. Like this is some dork who doesn't actually know that Jesus commanded us to love everybody, and therefore he thinks it's stupid and ridiculous to do so, which means this would be an unchurched guy, a guy who doesn't take it all that seriously, doesn't take it seriously enough to go to church, and yet is going to go around telling Christians what to believe and stuff. This is exactly the sort of person that the Groypers love to bring into their group, send out into the world to attack people.
CC Unit, I can guarantee, I'm not even sure why you got him commenting. It looks like you are attacking Christians in general, and so on. I don't know what in the world you are, but I hope you don't pretend to be a Christian, because it looks like you have not read a single thing from Christianity. It looks like you haven't read the Gospels. It looks like you haven't read any text that matters in the Christian New Testament, in the Christian Bible. Otherwise, you wouldn't be saying something so stupid. And you probably haven't really thought much about this either, because let's say, for example, there were many instances of Christians in Europe sentencing another Christian person to death for heresy, for example. Does this now mean, for example, when when in Christian Europe, other Christians, different Christians for different ideas, were sentenced to death? Does this now mean that that these are two different populations that must hate each other
forever?
Does this mean that those authorities who punished the other heretical Christians and sentenced them to death are now two different groups that must permanently hate each other and fight each other and may not love each other and may not forgive each other, and so on? If an Italian guy in charge sentences a Venetian, preacher to death, does this now mean that the Venetians or the heretics or the Protestants, the Hussites, whatever you want to call them, are now to permanently hate and be disgusted with Catholics or the regular Protestant authorities? What kind of a stupid thing is this? You don't know what you're talking about. Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was a Jew. And you can deny it all you want. He called himself a Jew. He would know better than you do. He was a Jew who was in his own society by his fellow Jews, by certain Jews rejected, and by certain authorities whom he harshly criticized, demanded to be punished. This doesn't mean that this is Jews attacking Christians. It means Jews internally punishing what they perceive to be worthy of punishment. This doesn't mean Jews are bad. This doesn't mean they attacked Christians. It means they attacked a fellow Jew. That doesn't mean Jews are permanently bad. This doesn't mean Christians and Jews are permanently enemies. Nobody would have even called these people Christians in the time that Jesus was executed. They were Jews. And guess what? The followers of Jesus still went on to the temple and the synagogues after the death of Jesus and still participated in temple practices and were called Jews for decades after this happened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Go read a book, educate yourself. Don't be dumb and come here and call other people dumb.
Yeah, actually, AP, there are people in the chat, and some people were saying they think he's being sarcastic. Doesn't look like that to me. Christians love Jews, blah, blah, blah. Attack your God, you dumb Christians. A bunch of other people say they looked him up, and he's a Muslim. So
he says Jews spit on Christians in Israel. Yeah, right. Just ask the Christians in Israel.
Yeah, we did ask the Christians that in Israel. Remember?
Yeah, they were happy.
Yeah, there's
they were swimming in spit.
We talked to a Christian evangelist who's been doing evangelism in Israel for 20 years. He said there was one incident where things got physical, because he says there is one particular group that he said is about 1% of 1% that actually gets that actually believes in spitting and stuff. They're the group that does that. Meanwhile, CC unit, 14 centuries of jihadis slaughtering Christians and Jews in the name of Allah, and we're just supposed to love you guys so much, right? Guess what? We do, which is why we'll tell you have really, really stupid positions, you and all your groiper buddies. AP, how much should I get spit on in Israel?
Well, you did walk around with a cross the entire time. The entire time, even to the Western Wall, through all the different neighborhoods and so on.
AP. Hey,
what?
Did I or did I not go to Michael Rappaport's bar mitzvah right outside the Temple Mount with about 40 or 50 IDF soldiers there, and a bunch of Jews, was I standing there the entire time, and then walked all the way through underground and came out the place where the very Orthodox are copying the Torah? Was I rocking across that entire time? And if so, how much did I get spit on? And not even spit on, how frequently did someone even give me a dirty look?
Not a single time. In
Not
fact,
once.
what I do remember is plenty of people, including IDF soldiers that were attending there, looking at you and just greeting you with a warm smile. And
handing
religious-
me candy to throw
Yeah.
at Michael Rappaport for his bar mitzvah.
Yes, Haredi Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews, greeting you and asking you where you're from and what you do here, and so on. We went to the holiest place currently available in Judaism. We went underground and had a tour, going through the archaeological works that are currently taking place directly at the heart, digging out ancient history, looking at the wall up close, and exploring underground Jerusalem with David as a giant wearing his cross. And everything was totally good.
And they all they beat me up.
Out of 100 people encountered, only 95 spit on him.
Yes. So peaceful. Well, guys, so our good buddy CC unit.
Hey, we should publish that video. Didn't we record the whole thing, the whole tour with?
Oh yeah, I've never
Michael
published it.
Yeah, we should publish it.
I think I didn't publish it on YouTube. I don't know if I stuck it on Twitter or something like that. But yeah, we have video footage of. I did post a little clip of the bar mitzvah, and then when I pointed the camera at you, and I just said, "Hey, AP, can you verify I've been wearing this cross the entire time?" And you go, "Yeah."
Oh
and,
yeah, I remember.
Anyway, guys, notice what's that?
There was even you were even standing on high ground.
Oh yeah. So I'm taller than everyone else, and I was standing on this pillar and stuff because I was like, oh, I can get a better camera angle. So I'm the one I'm like 8 feet tall, standing
right
there.
The whole thing where the rabbi was there, and Michael Rappaport was there, and a bunch of IDF soldiers, and they were celebrating together. And you were among everybody, standing tall up there on a pillar and filming the entire thing. And people would frequently look at you and greet you and all that. And you're a giant there with your cross. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So the takeaway, ladies and gentlemen, is think about what Professor Zuckerman was saying. Here's how things work in my mind. Let me just say that's how the world works. That the world works according to what goes on in my mind, even though all the evidence shows that it's complete nonsense. Very similar to CC unit. Here's how things work in my mind. Jews go around spitting on Christians all day, and Christians need to hate them, and this is how the world works. And we've actually been there. And it's not how that works. And you're a moron. And you should be ashamed of yourself. And if you have some ideology which demands that you be a moron, you probably need to abandon it. And that goes for good Professor Phil and our good friend CC Unit. Better luck next time, guys.
In fact, let me share one more thing. I shared this before. But you know what? And I know this is going to hurt you a little bit, especially if CC Unit is a Muslim here. But remember when we were getting... actually, I won't mention where this was, but I talked to... David and I were sitting, and I talked to this guy who is a Christian, Orthodox Christian, half Greek, half Coptic. And I talked to him about the current ongoing conflict. And he said to me that he just wishes that peace came, and he lived in Jerusalem. He lived in New Jerusalem, but worked in the old city of Jerusalem. He was like, he said it's kind of anxiety inducing that we live here among an Islamic population that always keeps us on edge because it looks like any moment things could go wrong for all of us. However, also on the other side, Israel is always at odds with them, and we are in the middle. We just want it to stop, and we just want things to calm down. And there's one thing he said to me. He said, when we talked about discrimination and whether it takes place, I talked about Israel having certain precautions at border crossings and so on, and asked him if he doesn't think it is justified. He said to me the following. He said, when we, who seemingly look different and come from the eastern part, drive through certain border checks in Israel, we are more frequently pulled over and told to slow down for security checks. However, once the Israeli authorities see a cross hanging inside our car, they calm down and treat us like anybody else and just let us go through. And Muslims generally don't like that. And then we further continue the discussion on how this is due to learned behavior, because they frequently get attacks if they happen from the Islamic side and so on. But remember what this guy said. He's a Christian. He's living in he works in the old city of Jerusalem. He said once they see a cross hanging in our vehicle, they calm down and everything proceeds, and they treat us like anybody else. This is how they treat Christians.
So they spit on them.
Yes.
Once they see a cross hanging in our car, they instantly start shooting us and spitting on us. I know that's true because that's what the gripers say. Nick Fuentes says this. That's why it must be true. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch you all next time.
Inshallah.